The coffee sat on the marble desk, still steaming. Vanessa Clark reached for it, her ritual before every board meeting. Then a voice cut through the room like a gunshot. "Don't drink that!" Every head turned toward the back of the conference room where Ryan Hayes, the janitor, stood frozen mid-step, bucket in hand. The executives stared. Vanessa's fingers hovered an inch from the cup. "Are you out of your mind?" Adrian Voss snapped, half rising from his chair. But Vanessa saw something in Ryan's face, not panic, but certainty. "Test it," she said quietly. "Test it now." 15 minutes later, security confirmed traces of oleander extract. Someone had just tried to kill her. Before we continue, I want to invite you to follow this story all the way to the end. If you're enjoying it, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The morning started the way every morning started at Clark Industries, precisely, efficiently, and completely choreographed. Vanessa Clark arrived at 6:47 a.m., 3 minutes earlier than usual, her heels clicking against the polished marble of the executive floor with the rhythm of a metronome. She didn't acknowledge the night security guard who nodded at her. She didn't need to. Everyone knew who she was. At 38, Vanessa had built Clark Industries from the wreckage of her father's failing manufacturing firm into a tech powerhouse worth north of $3 billion. She'd done it by being smarter, faster, and significantly more ruthless than anyone who'd tried to stand in her way. The business press called her a visionary. Her competitors called her other things, usually after their quarterly earnings tanked. She called herself careful. Her assistant, Michelle, met her at the elevator with a tablet and an expression that suggested the world hadn't ended overnight, which Vanessa considered a win. "Morning briefing," Michelle said, falling into step. "Board meeting at 9. Adrian wants 15 minutes beforehand to discuss the Singapore contract. Legal flagged 3 items for your review, and maintenance called about the executive washroom. Something about water pressure. Tell Adrian 10 minutes, not 15. Forward legal to my personal email, and tell maintenance to handle it." Vanessa swept into her office, a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "I don't need updates about plumbing." "Noted." Michelle set a coffee cup on Vanessa's desk, the good kind, from the Italian machine in the executive lounge that cost more than most people's monthly rent. "Anything else?" "Close the door on your way out." Vanessa dropped her bag on the leather sofa and moved to the windows. 37 floors below, the city was waking up. Cars, people, all of them moving through their routines without knowing that the decisions made in rooms like this one shaped every aspect of their small lives. It was a view that usually centered her, reminded her of how far she'd climbed. This morning, it just made her tired. Her phone buzzed. Adrian Voss, her chief operating officer, and the man who'd been with her since the early days when they were operating out of a converted warehouse with secondhand furniture. The message was brief. "Need to discuss voting block before meeting. Critical." She typed back. 10 minutes. Not a second more. Adrian arrived exactly 10 minutes later, impeccably dressed as always, his silver hair combed back in a way that made him look distinguished rather than old. He turned 52 last month. Vanessa had sent flowers to his wife. "We have a problem," he said, closing the door behind him. "We have several. Which one?" "Marcus and Jennifer are waffling on the acquisition vote." Adrian settled into the chair across from her desk. "They're concerned about the debt load." Vanessa felt the familiar tightness in her chest, the one that showed up whenever board politics reared their head. "We've been over the numbers a dozen times. The ROI is clear." "They want reassurances." "They want their hands held." She stood, pacing to the window. "Fine. I'll handle it during the meeting." "There's something else." Adrian's voice shifted just slightly. "There's been talk about succession planning." Vanessa turned. "I'm 38. Which is why now's the time to think about it. Demonstrate long-term vision. Show the board you're thinking beyond quarterly targets." He paused. "It would strengthen your position considerably." "My position doesn't need strengthening." "Vanessa." Adrian leaned forward, hands clasped. "You know I'm on your side. I've always been on your side. But there are currents moving in that boardroom, and if you don't get ahead of them, they'll pull you under. Just consider it." She studied him for a long moment. Adrian had been her right hand for 6 years. He'd helped her navigate hostile takeovers, shareholder revolts, and 2 separate attempts by her uncle to seize control of the company. If he was worried, she should probably pay attention. "I'll think about it," she said finally. "That's all I ask." He checked his watch. "Board meeting in 20 minutes. I'll see you there." After he left, Vanessa returned to her desk and stared at the coffee Michelle had brought her. It had gone lukewarm. She hated lukewarm coffee. She hated a lot of things this morning, actually, though she couldn't quite pin down why. Her phone buzzed again. A text from her sister. "Lunch this week? Miss you." Vanessa deleted it without responding. Ryan Hayes started his shift at 5 a.m., same as always. He clocked in through the service entrance, changed into his maintenance uniform in the basement locker room, and checked the assignment board. Executive floor, conference rooms, private offices. The good assignments, if you wanted to call them that. At least it wasn't the bathrooms on the 3rd floor, which had been vandalized by someone's idea of a prank last Tuesday. "You're cheerful this morning," said Marcus, the senior janitor who'd been with Clark Industries for 15 years and treated the building like it was his personal kingdom. "Just thrilled to be here," Ryan said. "Smart ass," Marcus grinned. "You got the big conference room today. Board meeting at 9. Make sure it's spotless. The Ice Queen doesn't tolerate dust." Ryan didn't ask who the Ice Queen was. He already knew. Everyone knew. Vanessa Clark had a reputation that preceded her like a weather system. Brilliant, demanding, and completely unapproachable. In the 6 months Ryan had worked here, he'd seen her exactly twice, both times from a distance. She'd looked right through him like he was part of the furniture, which was fine. He preferred being invisible. He gathered his supplies and took the service elevator to the 37th floor. The executive level was quiet this early, just the hum of computers and the soft buzz of overhead lights. Ryan moved through the hallways with practiced efficiency, emptying trash bins, wiping down surfaces, checking that everything was in its place. The conference room was last. It was massive, dominated by a table that could seat 20 and a wall of windows with a view that probably cost extra. Ryan started with the trash, then moved to the table, cleaning each section methodically. He'd learned to be thorough. People noticed when you weren't, even if they didn't notice you. He was finishing the windows when he heard voices approaching. He checked his watch, 8:15. Early for a 9 o'clock meeting, but executives kept their own schedules. He grabbed his supplies and headed for the door, planning to slip out before anyone arrived. Then Vanessa Clark walked in. She was on her phone, talking in rapid-fire sentences about market share and competitive positioning. She didn't glance in his direction. Ryan kept moving toward the exit, but she'd positioned herself near the door, pacing as she talked. He slowed, not wanting to interrupt. "No, tell them it's non-negotiable," she said into the phone. "They either accept our terms or we walk. I'm not interested in compromise. Yes, I understand the optics. Then manage the optics. That's what I pay you for." She ended the call and finally noticed him. Her gaze flicked over him briefly, blue eyes, sharp as broken glass, then dismissed him entirely. She moved to the head of the table and set down her leather portfolio, then walked to the sidebar where someone had set up coffee service. Ryan should have left. He was already late for his next assignment, but something made him pause. Vanessa poured herself a cup from the silver carafe, added cream, no sugar. She lifted the cup to her lips, and Ryan saw it. The faint discoloration at the bottom of the cup, the slight cloudiness in the coffee that didn't match the others. Years of training, a lifetime ago in a different world, snapped into focus like a lens finally adjusting. "Don't drink that!" The words were out of his mouth before he could think. Vanessa froze, the cup halfway to her lips. She turned to stare at him, and for the first time since he'd started working here, he had her full attention. "Excuse me?" "The coffee." Ryan stepped forward, his heart hammering. "Don't drink it. Something's wrong with it." Her expression shifted from surprise to something colder. "What are you talking about?" Ryan's mind raced. How did he explain without sounding insane? "I noticed something. In the cup. Please, just don't drink it." For a long moment, Vanessa didn't move. Then she set the cup down on the table very carefully and pulled out her phone. "Security," she said when someone answered. "I need you in conference room A immediately. Bring a testing kit." She hung up and looked at Ryan again. "Don't move." They stood in silence, Vanessa watching him with an expression he couldn't read, Ryan trying to control his breathing. This was it. He'd just torpedoed his job, his paycheck, probably his entire future employment prospects in this city. All because of a hunch that might be completely wrong. Security arrived 2 minutes later. A broad-shouldered man named Torres, who Ryan recognized from the lobby. He took in the scene with a professional's quick assessment. "Ms. Clark, test this coffee." She indicated the cup. "All of it. I want a full analysis." Torres frowned but pulled out a small kit from his belt. He extracted a thin strip and dipped it into the coffee, then held it up to the light. The strip changed color almost immediately, from white to a deep, ugly purple. "Jesus," Torres breathed. "That's—" "Ms. Clark, we need to call the police right now." "What is it?" Vanessa's voice was steady, but Ryan saw her hands grip the edge of the table. "Poison. I don't know what kind yet, but this is definitely contaminated." Torres was already on his radio. "I need a full lockdown, executive floor. Nobody in or out until we clear this." The next hour was chaos. Police arrived, then detectives, then people in hazmat suits who bagged the coffee service and cordoned off half the conference room. The board meeting was canceled. The executive floor was evacuated. And through it all, Ryan stood in the corner of Vanessa's office, giving his statement to a detective who looked like she hadn't slept in a week. "And you noticed the discoloration how?" Detective Sarah Chen asked for the third time. "I just saw it. The coffee looked wrong." "Wrong how?" "Cloudy. The color was off." Ryan tried not to sound defensive. "I worked in quality control before this. You learn to notice details." Chen wrote something in her notebook. "Quality control where?" "Different places. Manufacturing, mostly. And now you're a janitor." "Yeah." Ryan met her gaze. "Now I'm a janitor." She studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Okay. Don't leave the city. We'll probably have more questions." After Chen left, Ryan was alone in the office with Vanessa. She stood by the windows, arms crossed, staring out at the city. She'd been silent since the hazmat team arrived. "They're saying it was oleander extract," she said finally, not turning around. "Enough to kill me within an hour. Probably less." Ryan didn't know what to say to that. "You saved my life." She turned to face him. "Why? Why?" Ryan blinked. Because someone was trying to kill you. You don't even know me. I know you didn't deserve to die over coffee." Something shifted in her expression. Surprise, maybe, or something close to it. "What's your name?" "Ryan. Ryan Hayes." "How long have you worked here, Ryan Hayes?" 6 months. "And in 6 months, no one's tried to poison me before." She moved to her desk, pulled out a business card, and handed it to him. "I want you to meet me here tomorrow, 9 a.m. We need to talk." "About what?" "About who wants me dead." Her eyes were hard now, all business. "And about why a janitor knows what poisoned coffee looks like." Ryan left Clark Industries at 2 p.m., 3 hours past the end of his shift. His supervisor had told him to take the rest of the day, probably because having him around while the police crawled over the building was a liability. He took the bus home, staring out the window without really seeing the streets passing by. His apartment was in a part of town the developers hadn't discovered yet, which was polite code for cheap and slightly depressing. 1 bedroom, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, and a living room that doubled as his daughter's play area. It wasn't much, but the rent was manageable, and the neighbors mostly kept to themselves. Emma was at school. Ryan checked the time, 2:45. He had an hour before pickup. He used it to shower, change, and try to process what had just happened. Someone had tried to kill Vanessa Clark, and somehow, impossibly, he'd stopped it. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "Mr. Hayes?" A woman's voice, professional. "This is Michelle Cho, Miss Clark's executive assistant. She wanted me to confirm your meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Will you be available?" Yeah, I'll be there." "Excellent. Please use the executive entrance. I'll have a visitor badge ready for you." She hung up before he could ask what the meeting was actually about. Ryan sat on the edge of his secondhand sofa and put his head in his hands. This was a mistake. Getting involved with Vanessa Clark, with whatever corporate nightmare she was tangled up in, it was the exact opposite of keeping his head down and staying invisible. But he'd seen the look on her face when she'd set down that coffee cup. The moment when she'd realized someone close to her, someone with access to her private conference room, wanted her dead. He knew that feeling. He'd lived it. At 3:45, Ryan picked up Emma from Riverside Elementary. She came bounding out of the classroom with her backpack bouncing, her dark hair escaping from its ponytail, talking a mile a minute about the art project they'd done and how Tommy had eaten paste again, even though the teacher said not to. And then Mrs. Robinson said we could bring something for show and tell on Friday, and I wanted to bring my rock collection, but Sarah said rocks are boring. But they're not boring, right, Dad? Rocks are cool. Rocks are extremely cool, Ryan said, taking her backpack. What else happened today? Emma chattered all the way home, and Ryan let her voice wash over him like a tide. This was real. Emma's small hand in his, her excitement about paste-eating Tommy, and her rock collection. The rest of it, the poison, the police, Vanessa Clark's sharp blue eyes, felt like something from a different life. Except it wasn't a different life. Not really. At home, Emma dumped her backpack and immediately started building something elaborate with her blocks on the living room floor. Ryan made her a snack, apple slices and peanut butter, and sat at the small kitchen table, watching her play. Dad? Emma looked up. You're being quiet. Just thinking. About what? Work stuff. Nothing important. You always say that. Emma arranged 2 blocks into a bridge. Mom used to say that too before she trailed off. Ryan's chest tightened. Before what, sweetheart? Before she got sick. Emma's voice was matter of fact, the way kids talked about things too big to really understand. She said work was nothing important, but then she was gone all the time. And then she was gone forever. Ryan crossed the room and knelt beside her. Hey, look at me. Emma turned, her brown eyes, Sarah's eyes, serious and sad. Work is just work, Ryan said. You're what's important. You're what's always important, okay? Okay, say? She hugged him, quick and fierce, then went back to her blocks. Can we have spaghetti for dinner? Yeah, we can have spaghetti. That night, after Emma was asleep, Ryan sat at the kitchen table with his laptop and did something he hadn't done in months. He opened a search engine and typed in a name. Adrian Voss, Clark Industries. The results came back immediately. Chief Operating Officer, 6 years with the company, previously at Meridian Tech, and before that at a venture capital firm in Boston. Photos showed a distinguished-looking man with silver hair, always impeccably dressed. There were articles about acquisitions he'd led, interviews where he discussed market strategy. Ryan kept digging. There were gaps in Voss's employment history, periods where the timeline didn't quite add up. Nothing obvious, nothing that screamed wrongdoing, but enough to make Ryan's instincts prickle. He thought about Vanessa Clark's question. Why does a janitor know what poisoned coffee looks like? The answer was complicated. The truth was complicated. But if he was going to walk into her office tomorrow morning and pretend he was just some maintenance worker who got lucky, she'd see through it in 30 seconds. Vanessa Clark didn't build a $3 billion company by missing details, so he'd tell her the truth. Most of it, anyway. Ryan closed the laptop and looked at the photo on the refrigerator. Him, Sarah, and Emma at the beach 2 summers before Sarah got sick, before everything fell apart. Sarah was laughing, her arm around his shoulders, Emma building a sandcastle at their feet. I'm trying, he said to the photo. I'm trying to keep her safe, that's all I'm doing. The photo didn't answer. It never did. But tomorrow, he'd walk into Vanessa Clark's office and hope that saving her life had bought him enough credibility to help her figure out who wanted her dead. And maybe, just maybe, he'd finally get some answers about why Sarah's accident 3 years ago had never quite added up either. Vanessa didn't sleep that night. She'd gone home to her penthouse apartment overlooking the harbor, poured herself a scotch she didn't drink, and stood at the windows watching the city lights blur into abstract patterns. The police had spent 4 hours crawling through Clark Industries, interviewing staff, examining security footage, treating her office like a crime scene. Because it was a crime scene. Someone had tried to kill her with poisoned coffee in her own conference room. Detective Chen had been blunt. The oleander was pharmaceutical grade. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. This wasn't some random attack. You think it was someone inside the company? Vanessa had said. I think it was someone with access to that conference room this morning. We're pulling security logs, but Ms. Clark... Chen had hesitated. You should assume that whoever did this is someone you know, someone you trust. Now at 2 a.m., Vanessa pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts. Adrian, Marcus Chen, board member. Jennifer Huang, board member. Her executive team. Her assistant. The list of people with access to that conference room was longer than she wanted to admit. One of them wanted her dead. She thought about Ryan Hayes, the janitor with observant eyes who'd shouted at her to stop drinking coffee. The police had questioned him extensively, but his story had held up. He'd just noticed something wrong and reacted. A good Samaritan. Except Vanessa didn't believe in good Samaritans. In her experience, everyone had an angle. Everyone wanted something. So what did Ryan Hayes want? Her phone buzzed, a text from Adrian. Just heard about today. Are you okay? Call me when you can. She stared at the message. Adrian, who'd been with her from the beginning. Adrian, who'd helped her build this company. Adrian, who'd suggested she think about succession planning just hours before someone tried to poison her. Vanessa deleted the text without responding. At 3 a.m., she gave up on sleep and went to her home office. She pulled up Clark Industries' financial records, board minutes, employee files. If someone wanted her dead, there had to be a reason. Money, power, revenge. It was always one of those three. She started with the financials. The company was solid, profitable, growing. But there were irregularities. Small things, easily overlooked. Discrepancies in vendor payments, unusual consulting fees, nothing that screamed fraud, but enough to make her pause. She dug deeper, cross-referencing expenses with approval signatures. A pattern emerged. Most of the questionable transactions had been approved by Adrian's office. Vanessa sat back in her chair, her heart beating faster. It could be coincidence. Adrian handled a lot of the company's operations. Of course, his signature would be all over the financial records. But Vanessa didn't believe in coincidences any more than she believed in good Samaritans. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Adrian. Vanessa, I'm worried about you. Please let me know you're safe. She picked up her phone and typed a response. I'm fine. Talk tomorrow. Then she went back to the financial records and started building a file. If Adrian Voss wanted to play games, she'd play. But she'd play to win. Ryan arrived at Clark Industries at 8:45 a.m., wearing the only dress shirt he owned that didn't have frayed cuffs. The executive entrance was different from the service entrance he usually used. Marble instead of concrete, fresh flowers instead of utility closets. A security guard checked his ID against a list, then handed him a visitor badge. 37th floor, Ms. Clark's office. Elevators are to your left. Michelle Cho met him at the elevator, impeccably professional in a gray suit. Mr. Hayes, thank you for coming. Miss Clark is ready for you. She led him through the executive suite to Vanessa's office. The door was open. Vanessa stood by the windows, wearing a dark blue suit that probably cost more than Ryan's monthly rent. She turned when they entered. Thank you, Michelle. Hold my calls. Michelle nodded and closed the door behind her. Vanessa studied Ryan for a long moment. Sit. He sat in one of the leather chairs facing her desk. Vanessa didn't sit. She paced to her desk, picked up a folder, and handed it to him. That's your employment file. 6 months with Clark Industries, assigned to maintenance and janitorial services. Before that, 3 months at a warehouse in South Boston. Before that, nothing. No employment history, no tax records, nothing. She crossed her arms. You want to tell me who you really are, Ryan Hayes? Ryan opened the folder, his employment application, background check, W-2 forms. All of it real, all of it legitimate, just incomplete. I'm exactly who I said I am, he said carefully. I work maintenance. I clean buildings. And before that? Before that, I had a different job. Doing what? Ryan met her gaze. Mechanical engineering, design and quality control for medical device manufacturers. Something flickered in Vanessa's expression. Medical devices? That's specialized work. It was. So why are you cleaning conference rooms? Ryan closed the folder. Because 3 years ago, my wife died in a car accident. Except it wasn't really an accident. The brakes on her car failed. Catastrophically. Suddenly. In a way that shouldn't have been possible. The police investigated. They said it was just bad luck, poor maintenance. One of those things. He paused. But I know cars. I know mechanical systems. And I know the difference between bad luck and sabotage. Vanessa was very still. Someone killed your wife. I think so. I spent a year trying to prove it, trying to get someone to listen. I lost my job because I couldn't focus. Lost my house because I couldn't pay the mortgage. Lost everything except my daughter. Ryan's voice was steady, but his hands weren't. So I moved here, changed jobs, tried to start over. I took work that let me be invisible, because invisible people don't get targeted. Invisible people stay safe. Until yesterday, Vanessa said quietly. Until yesterday. She moved to her desk and pulled out another folder. The police ran a full analysis on the coffee. Pharmaceutical-grade oleander extract, enough to kill within 30 minutes. It was added to the carafe sometime between 7 a.m. and 8:15 a.m. Security footage shows 15 people with access to that conference room during that window. Including Adrian Voss? Vanessa's eyes narrowed. Why do you say that? Because he's the one who suggested you think about succession planning. Hours before someone tried to kill you. Ryan leaned forward. I'm not a detective, Ms. Clark, but I know what it looks like when someone's setting the stage. You've been doing research. I spent last night looking into your senior staff. Adrian Voss has gaps in his employment history, unexplained periods, and some of your financial records have irregularities tied to his office. Vanessa set down the folder. You found that in one night? I'm good at details. It's what I used to do for a living. For the first time since he'd entered the office, something in Vanessa's expression softened. Not quite a smile, but close. The police think this was personal, she said. Someone with a grudge. They're investigating disgruntled employees, former business partners, anyone I might have crossed professionally. But you don't think it's personal? No. Vanessa moved to the windows, looking out at the city. I think it's about control. Someone wants me out of the way and they're willing to kill to make it happen. She turned back to him. The question is who and why now? Ryan stood. Then we find out. We look at everyone with access, everyone with motive. We build a case. We? Vanessa raised an eyebrow. You need someone you can trust, someone who's not part of your world, who doesn't have skin in the game. Ryan met her gaze. I'm invisible, remember? I can move through this building without anyone noticing. I can watch, listen, gather information. You're a janitor, not an investigator. I'm an engineer who learned to pay attention to details. And someone tried to kill you in the same way someone killed my wife. Quietly, efficiently, in a way that looked like an accident or bad luck. Ryan's voice hardened. I want to know if the same person is responsible, and I want to help you stop them before they try again. Vanessa studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, Ryan Hayes, we'll do this together, but if you're going to work with me, I need complete honesty. No more secrets. No more secrets, Ryan agreed. Good. Vanessa pulled out her phone and sent a quick text. Michelle will set you up with a temporary security clearance. You'll have access to the executive floor after hours. We'll meet here each evening at 6, after most of the staff has gone home. She paused. And Ryan, if we're going to do this, we do it smart. No heroics, no unnecessary risks. We gather evidence, we build a case, and we hand it to the police. Understood. One more thing. Vanessa's expression was serious. If Adrian or anyone else realizes we're investigating, they'll move against us, probably violently. You need to understand what you're signing up for. Ryan thought about Emma, waiting for him at home, about the promise he'd made to keep her safe, about the 3 years he'd spent trying to be invisible, trying to protect the one good thing he had left. Then he thought about Sarah's car, wrapped around a telephone pole on a road she'd driven 1,000 times, about the police report that said mechanical failure when he knew it was murder, about the man with the silver hair who'd suggested succession planning hours before someone tried to poison Vanessa Clark. I understand, he said. Let's find out who's trying to kill you. Vanessa held out her hand. Ryan shook it, her grip firm and steady. Welcome to the investigation, Mr. Hayes. Try not to get us both killed. That evening, Ryan picked up Emma from the after-school program and tried to act normal. She was chattering about a science project involving vinegar and baking soda, her small hands gesturing wildly as she described the explosion that had covered Tommy's shirt. And Mrs. Robinson said we have to be more careful next time. But, Dad, it was so cool. Can we do it at home? Maybe this weekend, Ryan said, unlocking the apartment door. Right now you need to do your homework. Emma groaned but dumped her backpack on the kitchen table and pulled out her math worksheet. Ryan heated up leftover chicken and rice while she worked, his mind only half on the domestic routine. The other half was replaying his conversation with Vanessa, thinking about the investigation they were about to launch into her company. Dad, what's 7 times 8? 56. Are you sure? Positive. Emma scribbled the answer. You're good at math. I used to be good at a lot of things. You're still good at things. Emma looked up, suddenly serious in that way kids got when they were channeling wisdom beyond their years. You're good at making dinner and helping with homework and reading stories. Those are important things. Ryan's chest tightened. Yeah, sweetheart, they are. After Emma went to bed, Ryan changed into dark jeans and a black jacket. He'd arranged for Mrs. Chen from down the hall to listen for Emma. She was a grandmother who'd lost her husband last year and seemed grateful for the company, even if it was just sitting in Ryan's apartment watching Korean dramas while his daughter slept. You working late? Mrs. Chen asked when she arrived. Something like that. I'll be back by 11. Take your time. My show doesn't end until midnight anyway. Ryan drove back to Clark Industries, parking in the public garage 3 blocks away instead of the employee lot. The night security guard at the executive entrance checked his new badge twice before waving him through. Vanessa was waiting in her office, still in her suit but with her jacket off and her sleeves rolled up. There were papers spread across her desk, financial reports and personnel files forming a mosaic of information. You're late, she said without looking up. I have a daughter. It takes time to arrange childcare. That made her pause. How old? 7. Vanessa's expression shifted, something almost like sympathy crossing her features before the professional mask slid back into place. I didn't know. No reason you would. I'm just the janitor who saved your life. Former janitor, technically. Michelle processed your transfer this afternoon. You're now a consultant to my office, which gives you legitimate access to the executive floor and company records. She gestured to the papers. I've been going through the financials. The irregularities I mentioned are more extensive than I thought. Ryan moved to the desk, scanning the documents. Purchase orders for consulting services that had no clear deliverables. Wire transfers to shell companies. Equipment leases for machinery that didn't appear in any inventory logs. How much are we talking? Conservatively, $3 million over the past 18 months, possibly more. Vanessa pulled up a spreadsheet on her laptop. All of it approved through Adrian's office, but buried in legitimate operational expenses. You'd have to know what you're looking for to spot it. And you're sure it's fraud, not just sloppy bookkeeping? I built this company from nothing. I know every dollar that comes in and goes out. Her voice was cold. This is theft. Systematic, deliberate theft. Ryan studied the pattern of transactions. It's not just about money, though. If Adrian wanted to embezzle, he could have done it quietly, kept it small. This is big enough that eventually someone would notice. So what's the end game? Leverage. Ryan tapped one of the shell company names. He's building a war chest. Money that can't be traced back to him directly. Funds he can use for whatever he's planning. Vanessa sat back in her chair. He wanted me to think about succession planning. He said there were currents in the boardroom I needed to get ahead of. Because he's the one creating those currents. A coup? Vanessa's hands clenched. He's planning to force me out and take control of the company himself. And when the poison didn't work, he'll try something else. Something that looks less like murder and more like natural consequences. Ryan met her gaze. We need to figure out what he's planning, and we need proof solid enough that the board can't ignore it. Vanessa stood and walked to the windows. The city stretched out below them, lights glittering like scattered diamonds. Adrian and I started working together 6 years ago. I trusted him, with the company, with strategic decisions, with everything. People change. Or maybe you just finally saw who he really was. That's not comforting. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be true. She turned to face him, and for the first time Ryan saw past the CEO persona to the woman underneath, exhausted, angry, and scared, though she'd never admit the last part. Where do we start? She asked. Ryan pulled out a small notebook. We map his network. Everyone Adrian works with regularly, anyone who might be part of this. We look for patterns in communication, unusual meetings, anything that suggests coordination. That could be dozens of people. Then we narrow it down. Who has the most to gain from you being gone? Vanessa pulled up her email and started scrolling through Adrian's correspondence. Marcus Chen and Jennifer Huang, the two board members who were waffling on the acquisition vote, Adrian mentioned them specifically yesterday morning, before someone tried to poison you. Yes. Ryan made notes. Who else? David Park, our CFO. He works closely with Adrian on all financial matters. If there's fraud happening, David would either be part of it or deliberately looking the other way. What about your assistant, Michelle? Vanessa shook her head. Michelle has been with me for 4 years. She's loyal. Everyone thinks their people are loyal until they're not. Michelle didn't poison my coffee. She's the one who prepared the coffee service that morning, but she used a sealed carafe from the executive lounge. Someone tampered with it after she left. Ryan wrote down Michelle's name anyway. Trust was a luxury they couldn't afford. They worked through the night, building a timeline of Adrian's activities over the past 6 months. Vanessa pulled emails, calendar appointments, expense reports. Ryan cross-referenced them against the financial irregularities, looking for connections. Around midnight, a pattern emerged. Look at this, Ryan said, pointing to a series of meetings on Adrian's calendar. Every Tuesday at 7 a.m., he has a block labeled Strategic Planning. No attendees listed, no location. Vanessa frowned. That's unusual. Adrian usually documents everything. And it started exactly 18 months ago, right when the financial irregularities began. So he's meeting with someone, regularly, someone he doesn't want on the official record. Ryan pulled up the building's security logs for the past month of Tuesdays. If they're meeting here, security cameras might have caught something. They downloaded the footage and started scanning through it, fast-forwarding through hours of empty hallways and locked conference rooms. At 6:47 a.m. on the third Tuesday, they caught it. Adrian entering a small conference room on the 35th floor, followed 2 minutes later by David Park and Marcus Chen. 3 of them, Vanessa breathed. All this time, 3 of them. Ryan paused the footage, freezing the image of Marcus Chen's face as he entered the conference room. Chen's on your board. He has voting power. If Adrian has Chen and Huang in his pocket, that's 2 board votes. He'd need 3 more to force me out. How many board members total? 9. I need 5 votes to maintain control. Vanessa's voice was tight. If Adrian has 2 and can flip 3 more, I'm done. Ryan resumed the footage. The 3 men stayed in the conference room for 43 minutes. When they left, their expressions were carefully neutral, but there was something in their body language, satisfaction, maybe, or confidence. We need audio, Vanessa said. I need to know what they're planning. The conference rooms aren't bugged. No, but my office is. Ryan stared at her. You bug your own office? I record all my meetings for legal protection and documentation. It's disclosed in the employee handbook that executive spaces may be monitored. She pulled up another program on her laptop. The system saves everything to a secure server. If we can access the conference room feeds, that's illegal without a warrant. It's my building, my security system. Vanessa's smile was sharp. And right now, I'm less concerned about legality than I am about staying alive. Ryan couldn't argue with that logic. They spent the next hour hacking into the building's security server. It wasn't elegant. Ryan's coding skills were rusty, and Vanessa kept having to Google syntax, but eventually they broke through. The audio files were encrypted, but the encryption was corporate level, not government grade. Ryan had dealt with worse when he was investigating Sarah's death, trying to pull maintenance records from systems that didn't want to be accessed. The first file took 20 minutes to decrypt. When it finally played, Adrian's voice filled the office, tinny but clear. Need to move faster. The acquisition is bleeding cash and Vanessa's too stubborn to see it. She won't listen to reason. That was Marcus Chen, his tone frustrated. I've tried suggesting alternatives, but she's committed to this path. Then we make her uncommitted. David Park's voice was smoother, more calculated. The shareholders are getting nervous. If we can demonstrate financial instability, show that her decisions are putting the company at risk. That's not enough, Adrian interrupted. We need something dramatic, something that proves she's lost her grip. What did you have in mind? The recording went silent for a moment. Then Adrian spoke again, his voice lower. An accident. Nothing traceable. Something that removes her from the equation without raising suspicions. Ryan felt ice flood his veins. Vanessa had gone very still beside him. You're talking about murder, Chen said, and he didn't sound shocked, just cautious. I'm talking about necessary action. Vanessa built this company, but she's become a liability. The board knows it, the shareholders know it. We'd be doing everyone a favor. And if it goes wrong, it won't. I have someone who can make it look natural. Clean, professional. By the time anyone realizes what happened, we'll have already consolidated control. The recording ended. The office was silent except for the hum of the laptop. That's a confession, Ryan said quietly. He's admitting to planning your murder. Vanessa's face was pale, her jaw clenched. He sounds so casual about it, like he's discussing quarterly projections. Because to him, you're just a problem to be solved. She stood abruptly and walked to the windows, her arms wrapped around herself. 6 years. I worked with him for 6 years. I trusted him with everything. Ryan saved the audio file to a secure drive. Trust is a weakness in business. You said that yourself once, in an interview. I didn't think it applied to the people who helped me build the company. It applies to everyone. Vanessa turned, and there was something raw in her expression now, the corporate armor cracking. My father always said I was too focused on work, that I'd die alone in an office somewhere, surrounded by money and accomplishments, but no one who actually gave a damn. Her laugh was bitter. Turns out he was almost right, except the alone part might happen sooner than expected. You're not alone, Ryan said. You have me. You're a janitor I met yesterday. Former janitor, current consultant, and the guy who's going to help you take Adrian down. He stood and crossed to her. Look, I get it. You built something from nothing, and now someone's trying to steal it. That's violating. It's personal. But feeling sorry for yourself isn't going to fix anything. Vanessa's eyes flashed. I am not. You are. And I understand why. But we don't have time for it. Adrian's planning something, and that recording is from 3 weeks ago. Whatever he's setting up, it's probably already in motion. She stared at him for a long moment, and Ryan could see her processing, thinking, recalculating. This was how she'd built an empire, by refusing to stay down when life knocked her over. You're right, she said finally. We need to move faster. We need more evidence. The audio is good, but a decent lawyer could claim it's fabricated or taken out of context. We need documentation, financial proof, something that ties Adrian directly to the fraud and the murder plot. Vanessa returned to her desk and pulled up Adrian's personnel file. His office is on this floor, 3 doors down. If he's keeping records of the fraud, they'd be there. Can you access it? I'm the CEO. I can access anything. She grabbed her jacket. Come on. Adrian's office was smaller than Vanessa's, but still impressive. Dark wood furniture, a wall of law and business books, framed photos of him shaking hands with politicians and industry leaders. It looked like the office of a man who'd arrived, who'd made it to the top, or who was planning to. Vanessa went straight to his desk while Ryan checked the filing cabinets. Everything was meticulously organized: contracts, correspondence, strategic plans. Nothing obviously incriminating. His computer's password protected, Vanessa said, staring at the login screen. Ryan pulled a USB drive from his pocket. I might be able to crack it, but it'll take time. We don't have time. Adrian's usually here by 7 a.m. It was currently 2:34 a.m. They had 4.5 hours. Ryan plugged in the drive and launched a password cracking program he'd used before, during the dark months after Sarah died, when he'd been trying to access her work computer to understand why someone wanted her dead. The program cycled through combinations, trying thousands of passwords per minute. Ryan watched the progress bar creep forward while Vanessa searched the rest of the office. There's nothing here, she said, frustration bleeding into her voice. Just normal business files. Because the incriminating stuff is digital. Everything important is on the computer. The program hit 15%. 20. Ryan drummed his fingers on the desk, willing it to move faster. Vanessa's phone buzzed. She checked it and frowned. Michelle, asking if I'm still in the building. Security must have notified her. What are you going to tell her? That I'm working late. It's not unusual. She typed a quick response and pocketed the phone. But we need to be careful. If word gets back to Adrian that I'm accessing his office, he'll know we're on to him. 35%, 40. Ryan's own phone vibrated. A text from Mrs. Chen. Emma had a nightmare. I got her back to sleep but thought you should know. Guilt twisted in his chest. He should be home with his daughter, not breaking into offices in the middle of the night. But Sarah's voice echoed in his memory, the last conversation they'd had before she died. Someone's been following me. I think something's wrong at work. He told her she was being paranoid. He told her to relax. 3 days later, she was dead. Ryan texted back, "Thank you. I'll be home soon. 60%, 70. How long does this usually take? Vanessa asked. Depends on the password complexity. Could be minutes, could be hours. We don't have hours. Then hope Adrian isn't as smart as he thinks he is. At 83%, the program beeped. Access granted. Ryan pulled up Adrian's files, scanning through folders. Most of it was legitimate business documents, but then he found a folder labeled Strategic Initiatives, buried 3 levels deep in the directory structure. Inside were spreadsheets detailing the fraudulent transactions, complete with account numbers and wire transfer confirmations. There were emails to Marcus Chen and David Park discussing the embezzlement, and there, in a subfolder marked Contingency, was a document titled Transition Plan. Ryan opened it and felt his blood run cold. It was a detailed strategy for removing Vanessa from power. Stage 1, financial sabotage to make her look incompetent. Stage 2, turn the board against her through whisper campaigns and manufactured crises. Stage 3, underlined and marked urgent. Physical removal if necessary. Contact V for arrangements. V, Vanessa read over his shoulder. Who's V? Ryan scrolled down. At the bottom of the document was a phone number and a single word. Verified. He hired someone, Ryan said. A professional. Someone who could make your death look like an accident. The oleander. That was just the first attempt. If that didn't work, he'll try something else. Ryan copied everything onto his USB drive while Vanessa photographed the screen with her phone. They needed redundant backups, multiple copies of evidence, in case one got compromised. When they were done, Ryan wiped the computer's access logs to hide their intrusion and shut it down. They'd gotten what they came for. But as they left Adrian's office and headed back to Vanessa's, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just declared war on someone who'd already proven willing to kill. The question was whether they could build their case before Adrian realized what they were doing and decided to accelerate his timeline. Back in Vanessa's office, they organized the evidence into a coherent timeline. The fraudulent transactions, the audio confession, the transition plan. Taken together, it painted a damning picture of conspiracy and attempted murder. We take this to the police, Vanessa said. Detective Chen can... The police will investigate, which takes time. And while they're investigating, Adrian will destroy evidence and disappear. Ryan shook his head. We need to force his hand. Make him move before he's ready. How? The board meeting. When's the next one? Next Tuesday, 4 days from now. Perfect. We present the evidence then, in front of everyone. Adrian won't be able to spin it or bury it. The board will see exactly what he's been doing. Vanessa considered it. If we go public with accusations and can't prove them, I'll lose what credibility I have left. The board will think I'm paranoid or unstable. Then we make sure we can prove them. We spend the next 4 days building an airtight case. Every transaction documented, every conversation recorded, every piece of evidence verified and cross-referenced. Ryan met her gaze. We get one shot at this. We make it count. She nodded slowly. All right, we work around the clock, gather everything we can, and on Tuesday, we burn Adrian's world to the ground. They shook on it, a partnership forged in desperation and shared determination. Ryan left Clark Industries at 4:15 a.m. and drove home through empty streets. The city was quiet at this hour, just the occasional taxi and delivery truck. He felt wired, adrenaline still singing through his veins despite the exhaustion. Mrs. Chen was asleep on his couch when he got home. A Korean drama paused on the TV. He woke her gently and thanked her, pressing $40 into her hand despite her protests. After she left, Ryan checked on Emma. She was curled up in bed with her stuffed rabbit, her face peaceful in sleep. He brushed the hair back from her forehead and felt the familiar ache of protective love mixed with fear. He was putting her at risk, investigating a murder conspiracy. If Adrian discovered what they were doing, he wouldn't hesitate to use Emma as leverage. But Ryan also knew that doing nothing was its own kind of risk. Adrian had killed before. Ryan was almost certain of it now. Sarah's accident, the suspicious timing, the mechanical failure that made no sense. If Adrian was cleaning up loose ends 3 years ago, Sarah might have been one of them, which meant Ryan owed it to her memory to see this through. He kissed Emma's forehead and whispered, "I'm going to make this right, sweetheart. I promise." Then he went to his own room and tried to sleep, knowing that in 4 days, everything would either come together or fall completely apart. The next 3 days were a blur of investigation and documentation. Ryan spent his nights at Clark Industries going through files and security footage, while Vanessa worked her contacts and gathered intelligence on the board members. During the day, Ryan maintained his new consulting cover, attending meetings and appearing to work on operational efficiency projects. Emma noticed he was distracted. "Dad, you're not listening," she said Thursday night over dinner. "I'm listening. You were talking about the science fair." "No, I was talking about how Tommy ate glue and had to go to the nurse." "The science fair was yesterday." Ryan set down his fork. "Sorry, kiddo. Work's been crazy." "Is it important work?" "Very important." "More important than me?" The question hit him like a punch. "No, nothing is more important than you." "Then why do you keep leaving at night?" "Because I'm trying to catch the man who might have killed your mother," Ryan thought, but didn't say. Instead, he said, "Because sometimes grown-ups have to do hard things to keep the people they love safe. But I promise, after next week, things will go back to normal." Emma studied him with those two wise eyes. "You promise?" "I promise." She seemed satisfied with that answer, which made Ryan feel even worse about lying to her, because the truth was he had no idea if things would ever go back to normal. Once you opened certain doors, they didn't close easily. Friday night, Ryan and Vanessa met with an attorney Vanessa trusted, a woman named Patricia Walsh who specialized in corporate fraud. They spread the evidence across Patricia's conference table and walked her through everything. Patricia listened without interrupting, making occasional notes. When they finished, she sat back and let out a long breath. "This is explosive," she said. "If even half of it's true, Adrian Voss is looking at serious prison time." "It's all true," Vanessa said. "We have documentation." Documentation that was obtained through questionable means. Breaking into his office, hacking his computer. A defense attorney would have a field day with chain of custody issues. Ryan leaned forward. "So we can't use it?" "I didn't say that. I said a defense attorney would challenge it. But in the court of public opinion, which is where this will play out first, during the board meeting, it'll be devastating." Patricia gathered the documents into a neat stack. "You need to be prepared for Adrian to fight back. He won't go quietly." "I don't expect him to," Vanessa said. "He might also lawyer up immediately and refuse to answer questions. You should have security standing by during the meeting, and Vanessa, you should seriously consider bringing in the police before Tuesday." "No police. Not yet." Vanessa's voice was firm. "Adrian has connections in the department. If word gets out that we're building a case, evidence will disappear." Patricia didn't look happy about it, but she nodded. "Your call. Just be careful. Men like Adrian Voss don't appreciate being cornered." They left Patricia's office after midnight and sat in Vanessa's car in the parking garage. Neither of them moved to start the engine. "Are we making a mistake?" Vanessa asked quietly, "confronting him publicly instead of going through proper channels?" "Proper channels didn't work when my wife died," Ryan said. "The police investigated for 3 weeks and found nothing, called it an accident and closed the case. By the time I had enough evidence to prove it was sabotage, the trail was cold." He turned to her. "If we wait, Adrian will be 3 steps ahead. We need to hit him hard and fast before he knows what's coming. And if it goes wrong, then we'll deal with it, together." Vanessa finally started the car. "You know, when I woke up Wednesday morning, I thought my biggest problem was convincing the board to approve an acquisition. Now, I'm planning to publicly accuse my COO of fraud and attempted murder. Life comes at you fast." "That's an understatement." She pulled out of the parking space. "Where can I drop you?" My car's in the lot on 5th Street. They drove in silence through the empty city streets. When Vanessa pulled up next to Ryan's beat-up sedan, she didn't immediately unlock the doors. "Thank you," she said, "for helping me. You didn't have to get involved." "Yeah, I did. Someone tried to kill you, and I think that someone also killed my wife." Ryan opened the door but paused before getting out. "See you Monday. We'll do a final review before the meeting." "Ryan?" Vanessa's voice stopped him. "Your daughter, Emma. Does she know what you're doing?" "She knows I'm working on something important. That's all she needs to know. Make sure she stays safe. If Adrian figures out you're helping me, he won't. And if he does, he'll have to go through me first." Ryan got out and watched Vanessa drive away, her taillights disappearing into the darkness. Then he got in his own car and sat there for a moment, thinking about Emma asleep at home, about Sarah's grave in a cemetery across town, about the board meeting that would either vindicate everything or destroy what little stability he'd managed to build. He pulled out his phone and looked at the photo he kept as his wallpaper. Sarah, Emma, and him at the beach, all of them laughing. "I'm going to finish this," he said to Sarah's image. "Whatever it takes." Then he drove home, already planning for the confrontation that was now only 3 days away. Monday morning arrived with rain hammering against Ryan's apartment windows. He woke to Emma jumping on his bed, already dressed in her school uniform with her backpack crooked on one shoulder. "Dad, we're going to be late. You slept through your alarm." Ryan grabbed his phone. 7:42. "School started at 8:15. Why didn't you wake me sooner?" "I tried. You said 5 more minutes and rolled over." Emma bounced once more for emphasis. "Can we get breakfast on the way?" They made it to school with 3 minutes to spare. Ryan bought Emma a muffin from the corner bakery and watched her run through the rain toward the entrance, her backpack bouncing. She turned at the door to wave, and he waved back, wondering if she could see the exhaustion in his face. His phone buzzed before he'd even pulled away from the curb. Vanessa. "We have a problem," she said when he answered. "Good morning to you too." Adrian moved the board meeting up. It's happening today at 2 p.m. instead of tomorrow. Ryan's stomach dropped. "Why?" "He claims scheduling conflicts, but I think he suspects something. Michelle said he was asking questions Friday about security access logs, who's been in the building after hours." "Does he know it was us?" "Not yet, but we're running out of time." Vanessa's voice was tight. "Can you get to my office in an hour? We need to finalize everything." Ryan checked the time. 8:20. "I'll be there." He drove to Clark Industries through traffic that seemed deliberately designed to test his patience. Every red light felt personal. By the time he reached the executive garage, it was 9:15 and his nerves were frayed. Vanessa was in her office with Patricia Walsh, the attorney. They'd spread the evidence across every available surface: documents on the desk, printouts on the coffee table, photos pinned to a makeshift board against the wall. "Good. You're here." Vanessa barely looked up. "Patricia's been helping me organize the presentation. We'll need to hit the key points fast before Adrian can derail us." Ryan shrugged out of his wet jacket. "What's the plan?" Patricia gestured to a laptop. "We've created a slide deck. Financial fraud first. The embezzlement is the easiest to prove and the hardest for Adrian to explain away. Then the audio recording of him discussing your murder. Finally, the transition plan from his computer. What about the security footage of his secret meetings? We'll use it as supporting evidence, but the audio is stronger. It's his voice, his words, planning a murder." Patricia pulled up the presentation. "The key is staying calm. Adrian will try to discredit you, claim the evidence is fabricated or taken out of context. Don't get defensive, just present the facts." Vanessa paced to the window, her arms crossed. She was wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Ryan's monthly rent, but there were dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. "What if the board doesn't believe us?" she asked. "Then Adrian wins and you're out," Patricia said bluntly. "But I've reviewed the evidence. If presented correctly, it's damning enough that the board will have to act. They can't ignore fraud and conspiracy to commit murder." "Unless they're part of it," Ryan said. Both women turned to look at him. "Marcus Chen and Jennifer Huang are already in Adrian's pocket," Ryan continued. "We know that from the recordings. What if there are others? What if Adrian's been working them this whole time?" Vanessa's jaw tightened. "Then we're walking into an ambush." Not necessarily. Patricia pulled up a list of board members. You need 5 votes to maintain control. Adrian has Chen and Huang. You have yourself. That's 1. We need to identify 3 more board members who will side with you when they see the evidence. Thomas Wright will support me, Vanessa said. He's been on the board since my father's time. He's loyal. Loyalty only goes so far when money's involved, Ryan said. What about the others? Vanessa studied the list. Karen Bradshaw, possibly. She's cautious but fair. If the evidence is solid, she'll vote for what's right. That's 2, Patricia said. You need 1 more. Richard Sato or Elizabeth Morgan. Both of them are wild cards. Vanessa sat down heavily. This is going to be close. Then we make sure our presentation is perfect. Ryan started organizing documents into manila folders, 1 for each board member. We give them everything. Make it impossible to ignore. They spent the next 3 hours rehearsing. Patricia played devil's advocate, throwing out every objection and challenge Adrian might raise. Vanessa practiced her delivery, learning to present the evidence without emotion, letting the facts speak for themselves. Ryan mostly listened, but he noticed things. The way Vanessa's hands trembled slightly when they discussed the poison. The catch in her voice when she talked about trusting Adrian for 6 years. She was holding herself together through sheer force of will, but the cracks were showing. At noon, Patricia left to file some preliminary paperwork with the court. Insurance, in case everything went sideways. That left Ryan and Vanessa alone in the office. The evidence spread around them like ammunition before a battle. You should eat something, Ryan said. I'm not hungry. When's the last time you ate? Vanessa thought about it. Yesterday, maybe. I don't remember. Ryan pulled out his phone and ordered sandwiches from a deli 2 blocks away. When they arrived 20 minutes later, he unwrapped one and held it out to her. Eat. You're very bossy for a consultant. I'm very practical. You passing out during the board meeting won't help anyone. She took the sandwich and ate mechanically, barely tasting it. Ryan ate his own, watching the rain streak down the windows. Can I ask you something? Vanessa said after a while. Sure. Why are you really doing this? And don't say it's because of your wife. There's more to it than that. Ryan set down his sandwich. You want the truth? I always want the truth. Because I'm tired of powerful people getting away with murder. Adrian killed Sarah. I'm almost certain of it now. She worked in medical device manufacturing, quality control for a company that was later acquired by one of Adrian's ventures. She told me something was wrong at work, that someone was following her. I didn't believe her. He paused. 3 days later, her car went off the road. The police said mechanical failure, but I checked that car myself 6 months earlier. The brakes were fine. Vanessa was quiet for a moment. You think Adrian had her killed because she discovered something? I think she found evidence of the same kind of fraud he's running here, and I think he eliminated the problem. Ryan met her gaze. So yeah, I want to help you take him down. But it's not just for you, it's for Sarah. It's for Emma, so she grows up in a world where people like Adrian don't win. That's a lot of weight to carry. I've been carrying it for 3 years. What's a few more days? Vanessa stood and walked to where Ryan sat. For a moment, she just looked at him, and he saw something in her expression he hadn't seen before. Not pity, but understanding. Recognition of shared pain. We're going to win this, she said quietly. For Sarah. For both of us. I hope you're right. At 1:30, they gathered the evidence folders and headed to the boardroom. It was on the 36th floor, a massive space with a table that could seat 20 and windows overlooking the city. Rain lashed against the glass, turning the view into an impressionist blur. The board members were already arriving. Thomas Wright, a distinguished man in his 70s with white hair and sharp eyes. Karen Bradshaw, 50s, severe-looking in a navy suit. Richard Sato and Elizabeth Morgan, both younger, both watching everything with careful neutrality. And then Adrian Voss walked in with Marcus Chen and Jennifer Huang flanking him like bodyguards. Adrian's smile was pleasant, professional. Vanessa, I'm glad you could make it despite the schedule change. Of course. Vanessa's voice was steady. We have important matters to discuss. Indeed we do. Adrian took a seat at the far end of the table, directly opposite Vanessa. It was a power play, creating distance and opposition. Though I must say I was surprised when security mentioned you'd been working unusual hours lately. Everything all right? Everything's fine, just preparing for today's meeting. With your new consultant, I understand. Adrian's gaze shifted to Ryan, standing near the door. Mr. Hayes, isn't it? The janitor who saved Vanessa's life. Former janitor, Ryan said evenly. Right, now a consultant, quite a promotion. Adrian's smile didn't reach his eyes. What exactly do you consult on, Mr. Hayes? Operational efficiency, risk management. How fascinating. Adrian turned back to the board. Well, shall we begin? I believe we have several pressing matters on the agenda. Vanessa remained standing while the others sat. Actually, Adrian, I'd like to address something first. Something that affects this entire board and the future of this company. Adrian's expression didn't change, but Ryan saw his shoulders tense slightly. Of course. The floor is yours. Vanessa picked up the remote for the presentation screen and pulled up the first slide. Financial records, transactions highlighted in red. Over the past 18 months, she began, approximately $3 million has been embezzled from Clark Industries through fraudulent consulting fees, equipment leases, and wire transfers to shell companies. The room went silent. Karen Bradshaw leaned forward, studying the screen. Thomas Wright's eyes narrowed. That's a serious accusation, Adrian said calmly. Do you have proof? I have documentation. Vanessa clicked to the next slide, showing the approval signatures. All of these transactions were approved through your office, Adrian. Your signature, your authorization codes. My office handles hundreds of transactions monthly. If there's been fraud, it was likely committed by someone on my team without my knowledge. Really? Vanessa pulled up an email. This is from you to David Park, discussing the setup of offshore accounts, dated 6 months ago. David Park, the CFO, had gone pale. He opened his mouth but said nothing. Adrian's smile had frozen in place. I'd need to see the full context of that email to comment. I'll give you context. Vanessa clicked through several more slides, emails, wire transfer confirmations, account statements, each one building on the last, creating an undeniable pattern of systematic theft. Marcus Chen shifted uncomfortably. Jennifer Huang stared at the screen like she was seeing it for the first time. This is circumstantial, Adrian said, but his voice had lost some of its smoothness. Financial records can be manipulated. I'm not sure what you're trying to prove here, Vanessa, but I'm proving that you've been stealing from this company while planning to force me out. Vanessa's voice cut through his objection like a blade. But the embezzlement is just the beginning. She clicked to the next slide. An audio waveform filled the screen. This is a recording from a meeting you held 3 weeks ago in Conference Room C. Shall I play it for the board? For the first time, Adrian's composure cracked. That would be illegal surveillance. This building's security system is disclosed in every employee handbook. All executive spaces may be monitored for legal and safety purposes. Vanessa pressed play. Adrian's voice filled the boardroom, tinny but unmistakable. We need something dramatic, something that proves she's lost her grip. Then Marcus Chen. What did you have in mind? Adrian's response was chilling in its casualness. An accident, nothing traceable. Something that removes her from the equation without raising suspicions. The recording continued, Adrian and his co-conspirators discussing murder like it was a budget meeting. When it ended, the silence in the boardroom was absolute. Thomas Wright looked like he might be sick. Karen Bradshaw's hand was over her mouth. Even Richard Sato and Elizabeth Morgan, the wild card, seemed genuinely shocked. You're talking about killing me, Vanessa said quietly. You hired someone to poison my coffee. When that didn't work, you planned to try again. Adrian stood abruptly. This is absurd. That recording is taken completely out of context. We were discussing a hypothetical scenario for what? Ryan stepped forward from his position by the door. What hypothetical scenario involves hiring someone to commit murder? Who the hell are you to question me? Adrian's control was slipping, anger bleeding through. You're a janitor. You have no authority here. I'm the person who stopped you from killing her the first time. Ryan pulled out a folder and tossed it onto the table. And I'm the person who found the transition plan on your computer, the one detailing exactly how you plan to take over this company after Vanessa was dead. Adrian's face had gone from red to white. You accessed my computer? That's illegal. So is embezzlement. So is conspiracy to commit murder. Ryan's voice was hard. You want to talk about illegal? We can start with the $3 million you stole. Or we can talk about Sarah Hayes. The name hung in the air. Adrian blinked. Who? My wife. Sarah Hayes. She worked in quality control for Meridian Tech 5 years ago, right before your company acquired them. She found evidence of fraud in the manufacturing process. Safety violations that would have cost millions to fix. And then, very conveniently, she died in a car accident. Understanding flickered across Adrian's face, then calculation. I don't know what you're talking about. Her brakes failed, catastrophically. The police said it was poor maintenance, but I'm a mechanical engineer. I know brakes, and I know sabotage. Ryan moved closer to the table. You killed her to cover up fraud, just like you tried to kill Vanessa. This is insane. Adrian looked around at the board members. You can't possibly believe this conspiracy theory. He's clearly unstable, projecting his grief onto... The evidence speaks for itself, Vanessa interrupted. The financial records, the audio recording, your transition plan, all of it points to you, Adrian. Marcus Chen stood suddenly. I think we need to take a recess. This is a lot of information to process, and we should have legal counsel present before... Sit down, Marcus. Thomas Wright's voice carried authority that stopped Chen mid-sentence. We're not taking a recess. We're going to hear all of this, and then we're going to vote. Vote on what? Adrian demanded. On whether to remove you from this company and turn all of this evidence over to the police. Wright looked at Vanessa. Continue. I want to see everything. Vanessa spent the next 20 minutes walking through the rest of the evidence, the shell companies Adrian had created, the pattern of secret meetings with Chen, Huang, and Park, the contact information for V, the person Adrian had hired to carry out the murder. With each new revelation, Adrian's position became more untenable. He tried to interrupt, to explain, to redirect, but the evidence was overwhelming. The board members' faces shifted from shock to anger to disgust. When Vanessa finally finished, she stood at the head of the table and looked at each board member in turn. I'm calling for an immediate vote to remove Adrian Voss as Chief Operating Officer of Clark Industries, effective immediately. All in favor? Thomas Wright's hand went up first, then Karen Bradshaw's. Elizabeth Morgan hesitated, glanced at the evidence folders in front of her, and raised her hand. Richard Sato was the last. He looked at Adrian, then at Vanessa, weighing something Ryan couldn't see. Finally, slowly, his hand rose. 4 votes, Vanessa said. Plus my own. That's 5. Motion carries. Adrian slammed his hand on the table. You can't do this. I built this company with you. I gave 6 years to... You gave 6 years to planning my death. Vanessa's voice was ice. Security is waiting outside. They'll escort you from the building. You have 5 minutes to gather your personal effects from your office. Nothing else. You'll regret this, Adrian said, his face twisted with rage. I have connections, lawyers. You think this evidence will hold up in court? I'll tear it apart. I'll destroy you. You can try. Vanessa nodded to Ryan, who opened the boardroom door. 2 security guards entered, Torres among them. They moved to flank Adrian. Don't touch me. Adrian jerked away from them. I know the way out. But as he moved toward the door, he turned back to Vanessa one last time. This isn't over. You think you've won, but you have no idea what you've started. I started finishing what you began when you tried to kill me. Vanessa held his gaze. Now get out of my building. Adrian left, the security guards following close behind. Marcus Chen and Jennifer Huang stood as well, both looking like they wanted to disappear into the floor. You two can leave too, Thomas Wright said coldly. Consider yourselves removed from this board pending a full investigation into your involvement. They left without argument, Chen practically running for the door. David Park remained seated, his face ashen. I want to cooperate, he said quietly. I'll tell you everything I know. I have records, emails, all of it. I was part of the embezzlement, but I swear I didn't know about the murder plot. If I'd known, save it for the police, Wright said. They'll be here within the hour. Park nodded and stood on shaking legs. He left the boardroom like a man walking to his execution. When they were finally alone, just Vanessa, Ryan, Wright, Bradshaw, Morgan, and Sato, the tension drained from the room like air from a punctured tire. That, Wright said, Was the most dramatic board meeting I've attended in 40 years. I'm sorry you had to see it, Vanessa said, but I couldn't let Adrian destroy this company. You did the right thing. Bradshaw gathered up her evidence folder. Though I suspect the fallout from this will be significant. The press will have a field day. Let them. Vanessa sank into her chair, exhaustion finally catching up. At least I'll be alive to deal with it. The other board members filed out, leaving Ryan and Vanessa alone in the massive boardroom. Rain still hammered against the windows. The evidence folders lay scattered across the table like debris after a storm. We did it, Vanessa said, almost to herself. You did it, Ryan corrected. I just helped. You did more than help. You saved my life, twice. She looked at him, and there was something raw in her expression now that the adrenaline was fading. I don't know how to thank you for that. You don't have to thank me. Just make sure Adrian actually faces consequences. Don't let him lawyer his way out of this. He won't. I'll personally make sure of that. Ryan's phone buzzed. A text from Emma's school. Early dismissal due to weather. Please pick up by 2:45. He checked the time. 2:38. I have to go, he said. My daughter. Go. We're done here. Vanessa stood and held out her hand. Thank you, Ryan, for everything. He shook her hand, feeling the strength in her grip despite her exhaustion. Good luck with the police. I'll need it. Ryan left her there in the boardroom, surrounded by evidence of betrayal and survival. As he rode the elevator down, he felt the weight of the past week settling onto his shoulders. They'd won. Adrian was out, his conspiracy exposed, justice finally within reach. But Ryan couldn't shake the memory of Adrian's last words. You have no idea what you've started. He pushed the thought away and drove through the rain to Emma's school, where his daughter waited with her backpack and her innocent smile, completely unaware that her father had just helped bring down a murderer. For now, that was enough. The rest could wait. But as Ryan drove home with Emma chattering beside him about her day, he couldn't escape the feeling that this wasn't really over. Adrian Voss didn't seem like the type to accept defeat gracefully, and men like that were dangerous when cornered. The feeling proved prophetic faster than Ryan expected. 2 days after the board meeting, Detective Chen called him at 7 in the morning. Ryan was making Emma breakfast, scrambled eggs that were slightly too dry because he'd been distracted thinking about the police investigation into Adrian. Mr. Hayes, we need you to come down to the station. There's been a development. Ryan's stomach tightened. What kind of development? I'd rather discuss it in person. Can you be here by 9? Emma looked up from her cereal, picking up on his tension with the radar kid seemed to have for adult stress. Ryan forced a smile and nodded at the phone. I'll be there. He dropped Emma at school early, bribing her with the promise of ice cream later to make up for the rushed morning. Then he drove to the police station, his mind running through possibilities. Had Adrian destroyed evidence? Skipped town, found some legal loophole that would let him walk free? Detective Chen met him in a conference room with coffee that tasted like it had been sitting on a burner since yesterday. She looked tired, her eyes ringed with dark circles that matched Ryan's own. Adrian Voss made bail yesterday afternoon, she said without preamble. What? How? You charged him with attempted murder and embezzlement. His lawyers argued flight risk wasn't a concern. He has deep roots in the community, no prior record, substantial assets he can't easily liquidate. The judge set bail at $2 million. Adrian posted it in under an hour. Chen leaned back in her chair. He's out, Ryan, and he's angry. Ryan felt ice slide down his spine. Has he made threats? Not explicitly, but his lawyers filed a motion to dismiss based on how the evidence was obtained. They're claiming illegal search and seizure, violation of privacy rights, corporate espionage. She paused. They're also going after you specifically, claiming you're a disgruntled former employee with a vendetta, that you manipulated Ms. Clark into believing a conspiracy theory. That's insane. The evidence is real. I know, and the DA knows. But Adrian has expensive lawyers, and they're very good at creating reasonable doubt. Chen pushed a folder across the table. This came to my desk this morning. Background check on you. Very thorough, very detailed. Someone's been digging into your past. Ryan opened the folder. His employment history, Emma's school records, his financials, even the police report from Sarah's accident, everything laid out in clinical detail. Adrian's trying to discredit me. He's trying to build a narrative. Grieving widower becomes obsessed with conspiracy theories, sees malice where there's only coincidence, convinces vulnerable CEO that her trusted lieutenant is trying to kill her. Chen's expression was grim. It's actually a decent strategy. If he can make you look unstable, your testimony becomes questionable. And without your testimony about the poisoned coffee and your investigation, the case gets a lot weaker. What about the financial records, the audio recording? Still strong evidence, but Adrian's lawyers are arguing the recording was taken out of context, that they were discussing a hypothetical scenario for a strategic planning exercise. And the financial irregularities could be explained as legitimate consulting fees and operational expenses if you don't have someone credible connecting the dots. Ryan set down the folder. So what do I do? Stay visible. Stay clean. Don't give Adrian or his lawyers anything they can use against you. Chen met his eyes. And watch your back. Adrian Voss is out on bail, he's facing serious prison time, and he knows you're the key witness against him. That makes you a problem he needs to solve. The implication settled like lead in Ryan's gut. You think he'll come after me? I think desperate men do desperate things. And I think you should be very careful until this goes to trial. Ryan left the police station with a different kind of tension humming through his veins. Not the adrenaline of investigation, but the cold awareness of being hunted. He drove home on autopilot, checking his rear-view mirror more than necessary, noting the cars around him, looking for patterns. His phone rang. Vanessa. Ryan, have you talked to the police? Just left the station. You heard Adrian made bail. His lawyers called me at 6 a.m. to gloat about it. Her voice was tight with controlled anger. They're trying to intimidate me into dropping the corporate charges. Said if I push forward, they'll drag Clark Industries through a very public trial that will destroy shareholder confidence. What did you tell them? I told them to go to hell. We're not backing down. She paused. But Ryan, Detective Chen called me too. She said Adrian's been asking questions about you, trying to find leverage. I know, they showed me the background check. There's more. One of Adrian's lawyers contacted Emma's school this morning. Claimed to be from social services, asking about her attendance records and your fitness as a parent. Ryan's hands tightened on the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. They're going after my daughter? They're looking for any angle to discredit you. If they can suggest you're an unfit parent, unstable, neglectful, it all feeds their narrative. Vanessa's voice softened slightly. I'm sorry. I never meant for Emma to be dragged into this. This isn't your fault. It's Adrian's. Ryan pulled into a parking lot and stopped the car, needing to focus. But we need to be smarter about this. If he's willing to target a 7-year-old to get to me, he's more dangerous than we thought. I've hired private security, for both of us. They'll be discreet, but they'll be there if Adrian tries anything. Before Ryan could protest, she continued, This is non-negotiable. You helped me. Now, let me help you, please. Ryan wanted to argue, wanted to say he could handle this himself. But the truth was he couldn't, not with Emma in the crosshairs. Okay, he said finally. Thank you. The security team will contact you this afternoon to coordinate. And Ryan, be careful. Adrian's cornered now, and cornered animals are unpredictable. That was the second warning he'd gotten in an hour. Ryan was starting to think he should listen. He picked up Emma from school that afternoon and took her for the promised ice cream. They sat in a booth at Sweet Treats, Emma with chocolate chip cookie dough and Ryan with black coffee, watching his daughter's face light up as she described the art project they'd done in class. We made collages about our families, she said, swinging her legs under the table. I used pictures of you and me and Mommy. Mrs. Robinson said it was beautiful. I bet it was. Can we hang it on the fridge when I bring it home? Absolutely. Emma ate her ice cream in contemplative silence for a moment, then looked up at him with those two observant eyes. Dad, is something wrong? What makes you think that? You keep looking at the door, and you're doing that thing with your jaw where it gets all tight when you're worried. Ryan forced himself to relax. Just thinking about work stuff. The important work? The stuff that's going to be over soon? Yeah, that. Emma set down her spoon. You promised it would go back to normal after last week, but it doesn't feel normal. It feels like you're still worried. Ryan reached across the table and took her small hand in his. You're right. I am worried. But not about anything you need to worry about, okay? My job is to keep you safe and happy. Your job is to be 7 and eat ice cream and make collages. That's not a real job. Best job in the world, sweetheart. She smiled at that, but Ryan could see she wasn't entirely convinced. Kids always knew when adults were lying to them, even when the lies were meant to protect. They finished their ice cream and drove home. Ryan checked the rear-view mirror the whole way, noting a black sedan that seemed to be following at a consistent distance. His heart rate spiked until he realized it was probably the security team Vanessa had hired. Still, he took 2 extra turns just to be sure, and the sedan stayed with him. Protection or surveillance, it was hard to tell the difference sometimes. That night, after Emma was asleep, Ryan sat at his kitchen table with his laptop and did something he probably shouldn't have. He searched for Adrian Voss, looking for any information about where he might be staying now that he was out on bail. The search results were mostly news articles about the scandal at Clark Industries. Headlines screaming about corporate fraud and attempted murder, speculation about how deep the corruption went, think pieces about corporate governance and executive accountability. Adrian's face stared out from a dozen photos, his silver hair and distinguished features looking less trustworthy now that everyone knew what he'd done. But there was nothing about his current location. His house in the suburbs had been seized as part of the asset freeze pending trial. His wife had filed for divorce and taken their kids to her sister's place in Connecticut. Adrian Voss was a man without a home, which made him even more dangerous. Ryan's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Marcus from Sentinel Security. Ms. Clark hired us to provide protection. Black sedan currently parked across the street from your building. Just wanted to introduce myself so you know we're here." Ryan texted back, "Appreciate it. Any activity I should know about?" "All quiet so far. We'll maintain position overnight and rotate shifts at 6 a.m. You see anything unusual? Call this number immediately." Ryan looked out his window. The black sedan was indeed parked across the street, barely visible in the darkness. Knowing it was there should have made him feel safer. Instead, it just reinforced how precarious their situation had become. He went to bed, but didn't sleep well. Every sound in the apartment building made him tense, made him reach for the phone on his nightstand. Around 3 a.m., he gave up and went to check on Emma, standing in her doorway and watching her sleep, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight. This was what mattered. Not the investigation, not the trial, not bringing Adrian to justice. Just this small person, safe and whole, and dreaming of whatever 7-year-olds dreamed about. Ryan would do anything to keep her that way. The next morning brought another surprise. Ryan was making breakfast when someone knocked on his door. He checked the peephole and saw Vanessa standing in the hallway, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual business attire. She looked almost human. He opened the door. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk. Can I come in?" Ryan glanced back at Emma, who was watching cartoons in the living room. "Yeah, sure." Vanessa stepped inside and took in the apartment in a single glance. The worn furniture, the toys scattered on the floor, the cheerful chaos of a place where a child actually lived. Her expression softened in a way Ryan hadn't seen before. "Hi," Emma said from the couch, studying Vanessa with open curiosity. "Are you my dad's boss?" "Something like that," Vanessa said. "What's your name?" "Emma." "I'm 7. Are you here about the important work?" Vanessa looked at Ryan, who shrugged. Kids heard everything. "I am," Vanessa told Emma. "Your dad's been helping me with something very important. He's very good at his job." "He's good at a lot of things," Emma said loyally. "He makes really good pancakes. Do you want pancakes?" "Emma, Ms. Clark probably has somewhere to be." "I'd love pancakes," Vanessa said, surprising both of them. "If it's not too much trouble." 10 minutes later, they were sitting at Ryan's small kitchen table eating pancakes while Emma chattered about school and her rock collection and the science project she was planning for the fair. Vanessa listened with genuine interest, asking questions that Emma answered with increasing enthusiasm. Ryan watched this interaction with a strange mixture of emotions. Vanessa Clark, CEO of a billion-dollar company, eating pancakes in his cramped kitchen and bonding with his daughter over the merits of quartz versus obsidian. It felt surreal. When Emma went back to her cartoons, Vanessa's demeanor shifted back to business. "Adrian's lawyers filed a motion to dismiss yesterday afternoon," she said quietly. "The judge is hearing arguments next week. If he grants it, all the charges get dropped and Adrian walks free. Ryan set down his coffee mug. Can they actually win? Patricia says it's unlikely, but not impossible. The evidence was obtained through questionable means. If the judge decides it's inadmissible, the case falls apart. She paused. Which is why we need something else. Something beyond what we already have. Like what? Like the person Adrian hired to poison me. The contact saved in his files as V. If we can find them, get them to testify, they're not going to testify. They're a professional criminal. They'll disappear before risking exposure. Unless we offer them something better than what Adrian's offering. Vanessa pulled out her phone and showed Ryan a photo. David Park's been cooperating with the police. He gave them this, a bank statement showing a payment of $50,000 from one of Adrian's shell companies to an account registered to a Vincent Moretti. 3 days before someone poisoned my coffee. Ryan studied the photo. Vincent Moretti. That's our V. But Patricia's investigator tracked him down. He's a freelancer, works for whoever pays, no loyalty to anyone but himself. If we can get to him before Adrian's lawyers do, they'll offer him more money to disappear, or worse, to testify that we fabricated evidence. Ryan handed back the phone. This is dangerous, Vanessa. If Moretti's the type who poisons people for money, approaching him could get us killed. So we don't approach him. We let the police do it. The police need probable cause to arrest him. Right now, all they have is a bank transfer. That's not enough. Vanessa's jaw set in a stubborn line Ryan was starting to recognize. Then we get them enough. We find proof that Moretti was in the building that morning, that he had access to the coffee service, that he actually committed the crime Adrian hired him for. The security footage from that morning was already reviewed. If Moretti was there, the police would have found him. Unless he knew how to avoid the cameras or had help getting past security. Vanessa stood and paced to the window, the same restless energy she showed in her office. There has to be something we missed, some detail that proves the connection between Adrian and Moretti and the poisoning. Ryan thought about it, running through everything they'd found in Adrian's files. The transition plan, the financial records, the audio confession, all of it damning, but none of it directly tying Adrian to the actual act of poisoning. Then something clicked. The coffee service, Ryan said. Who set it up that morning? Michelle. But she used a sealed carafe from the executive lounge. Someone tampered with it after she left the conference room. What time did she set it up? Vanessa pulled out her phone and scrolled through emails. According to her statement to police, she prepared the conference room at 7:30. The meeting was scheduled for 9. So between 7:30 and 8:15, when I saw you reach for the coffee, someone added the poison. Ryan stood. We need to look at the security footage again. Not for Moretti specifically, but for anyone who entered that conference room during that window. The police already did that. They found 15 people with access. But did they look at what those people were carrying? Tools, bags, briefcases, something large enough to conceal a vial of oleander extract? Vanessa's eyes widened slightly. No, they were looking at faces, trying to identify suspects. They weren't looking at the how, just the who. Ryan grabbed his jacket. Can you access the security footage from your office? I can access it from anywhere. I'm the CEO. Then let's go. Emma's school doesn't start for another hour, and Mrs. Chen can watch her until then. 20 minutes later, they were in Vanessa's home office, a space almost as impressive as her corporate one, with floor-to-ceiling windows and expensive art on the walls. She pulled up the security system on her laptop while Ryan sat beside her, both of them scanning through footage from that Monday morning. Michelle appeared first, carrying a tray with the coffee service. She set it up efficiently, checked that everything was in place, then left. The conference room sat empty for 6 minutes. Then Adrian Voss entered. Ryan and Vanessa both leaned forward. Adrian walked to the coffee service, glanced toward the door, then pulled something from his jacket pocket, a small glass vial, barely visible in the camera's resolution. Is that? Vanessa started. Keep watching. Adrian uncapped the vial and poured its contents into the carafe, swirling it gently to mix. Then he pocketed the empty vial, checked his watch, and left the conference room. The timestamp read 7:43 a.m. He did it himself, Vanessa breathed. He didn't hire Moretti to poison me. He paid Moretti for the poison, but Adrian delivered it personally. Ryan felt a cold satisfaction settle in his chest. That's why Moretti's not worried about testifying. He didn't actually attempt murder. He just sold poison to someone who said they needed it for pest control or whatever story Adrian gave him. And Adrian couldn't risk having someone else do it because then he'd lose control of the situation. Vanessa was already pulling out her phone. This is it. This is the proof we need. She called Detective Chen and explained what they'd found. 20 minutes later, Chen was at Vanessa's apartment with two other detectives, watching the footage with expressions that shifted from skeptical to grimly satisfied. This changes everything, Chen said. With Adrian on camera actually poisoning the coffee, Moretti becomes a witness instead of a suspect. We can offer him immunity in exchange for testimony about what Adrian hired him to provide. Will he take the deal? Ryan asked. Moretti's a businessman. He'll take the deal that keeps him out of prison. Chen copied the footage to her tablet. I'm bringing this to the DA immediately. We'll have an arrest warrant for Adrian by end of day. He's already out on bail, Vanessa pointed out. Not for long. Judge sees this footage, bail gets revoked. Adrian goes straight to lockup pending trial. Chen stood. You two did good work. Again. You sure you don't want jobs with the department? I'll stick with corporate consulting, Ryan said. After the detectives left, Vanessa collapsed onto her couch with a long exhale. It's really over, isn't it? We actually got him. Not over until he's convicted, but yeah, this is pretty much checkmate. Ryan sat in the chair across from her. Adrian filmed his own confession. No lawyer can explain that away. He got arrogant, thought he was untouchable. Vanessa closed her eyes. 6 years I worked with him. 6 years I trusted him with everything. And the whole time he was planning to steal from me and kill me. People are good at hiding what they really are. Were you? Good at hiding? Ryan thought about the question. I tried to be. After Sarah died, after I lost everything, I figured if I just stayed quiet and invisible, Emma and I would be safe. Turns out you can't really hide, not when someone like Adrian is involved. Do you regret it? Getting involved with this? Ask me after the trial. Vanessa opened her eyes and looked at him. I owe you more than I can ever repay. You saved my life, helped me save my company, risked everything to get justice. You gave me a job when I needed one. You paid for security to protect Emma. We're even. We're not even close to even. She sat up. Which is why I want to offer you something. A real position at Clark Industries, Director of Operations, reporting directly to me. It's a senior role with actual authority and a salary that'll let you move out of that apartment into somewhere Emma can have her own room. Ryan stared at her. I'm not qualified for that job. You have a degree in mechanical engineering, years of experience in quality control and manufacturing, and you just helped take down a corporate conspiracy. You're more qualified than half the people I've hired. She leaned forward. I need people I can trust, Ryan. People who'll tell me the truth even when it's hard. People who'll notice when something's wrong and actually do something about it. You're that person. I have a 7-year-old daughter who needs me home for dinner and homework and bedtime stories. So work flexible hours. Leave at 3, come back after she's asleep if you need to. I don't care about FaceTime, I care about results. Vanessa's expression was serious. Think about it. You don't have to answer now, but the offer's real and it's open as long as you want it. Ryan wanted to say yes immediately. A real job, real money, the chance to use his actual skills instead of pushing a mop around. But there was Emma to consider, and the fact that corporate life had nearly destroyed him once already. I'll think about it, he said finally. That's all I ask. His phone buzzed. A text from Detective Chen. Warrant approved. Moving to arrest Adrian now. We'll keep you posted. Ryan showed Vanessa the message. She read it and nodded, something like relief flooding her features. It's really happening, she said quietly. Yeah, it is. They sat in silence for a moment, both of them processing the fact that after everything, the investigation, the danger, the late nights and close calls, they'd actually won. Then Vanessa's phone rang. Michelle, her assistant. Turn on the news, Michelle said, her voice tight. Channel 7, now. Vanessa grabbed the remote and switched on the television. Channel 7 was showing breaking news coverage, a reporter standing in front of a familiar building, Clark Industries headquarters. Developing story this afternoon as police attempt to serve a warrant on Adrian Voss, former chief operating officer of Clark Industries, in connection with attempted murder and corporate fraud charges. Voss apparently barricaded himself in his former office and is refusing to surrender to authorities. The camera cut to aerial footage from a helicopter. Police cars surrounded the building, officers in tactical gear taking positions. Hostage negotiators are on scene, the reporter continued, though police say Voss appears to be alone in the building. The situation remains fluid. Ryan felt ice flood his veins. He went to your office building? It's not his office anymore. Security should have stopped him. Vanessa was already calling someone, her movements sharp with controlled panic. Marcus, it's Vanessa Clark. What the hell is happening at my building? She listened for a moment, her face going pale. When? A pause. How did he get past? Another pause. I'm on my way. She hung up and looked at Ryan. Adrian showed up at the building an hour ago, told security he needed to collect personal items from his office as authorized by his lawyers. They let him up because technically his access hadn't been formally revoked yet. And then he barricaded himself inside. Not just inside, he's in the server room. He has access to all the company's digital infrastructure. Vanessa grabbed her jacket. If he wants to, he can destroy everything. Years of data, proprietary research, financial records, the evidence against him. Their eyes met. He's trying to erase it all, Ryan said. One last desperate play to destroy the proof before the trial. Then we need to stop him. Vanessa was already heading for the door. Ryan followed, his mind racing. Adrian Voss, cornered and desperate, with access to everything that could put him in prison for life. This wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. They made it to Clark Industries in 15 minutes, Vanessa driving like she was personally offended by traffic laws. Ryan texted Mrs. Chen to ask if she could pick up Emma from school, then called the after-school program to arrange extended care. Emma wasn't going to be happy about the broken promise of normal, but right now Ryan had bigger problems. The scene outside the building looked like something from a movie. Police barricades blocked the street. Officers everywhere, news vans with satellite dishes creating a media circus on the periphery. Detective Chen spotted them approaching and intercepted them before they could get close. You two shouldn't be here, she said. It's my building, Vanessa shot back. What's the situation? Chen glanced at the building, then back at them. Adrian's on the 34th floor in the main server room. He's locked himself in and disabled the electronic access from the inside. He's also somehow rerouted the building's network through his laptop, which means he has control of the entire digital infrastructure. Can't you just cut the power? Ryan asked. Server rooms have backup generators and battery systems specifically to prevent data loss during outages. If we cut power to the building, the servers stay up for at least 6 hours. Chen pulled out her phone and showed them a message. He sent this to our negotiator 10 minutes ago. The message was brief. Back off or I delete everything. You have 1 hour to drop all charges and guarantee safe passage out of the country. He's insane, Vanessa said. Even if we drop charges, he'd still face civil suits, shareholder lawsuits, everything. There's no walking away from this. Desperate people don't think rationally. Chen pocketed her phone. The tech team is trying to remotely access the servers, but Adrian's pretty sophisticated. He's blocked every back door they've tried. Ryan looked up at the building, counting floors. 34 was high enough that the windows didn't open, so Adrian wasn't getting out that way. The only exit was through the door he'd barricaded, which meant he was trapped just as much as the data he was threatening to destroy. What if we could talk to him? Ryan said. Not the police, not negotiators. Us. Absolutely not, Chen said immediately. You're civilians and potential hostages. I'm not putting you in that room. He doesn't want hostages, he wants leverage. Ryan turned to Vanessa. The data he's threatening to destroy, is it backed up anywhere? We have off-site backups, but they're updated weekly. If Adrian wipes the main servers, we lose everything from the past 5 days. Client data, project files, communications. Vanessa's jaw tightened. It would cost us millions and destroy our credibility with customers. But the evidence against Adrian, the financial records, the emails, all of it, that's backed up, right? Most of it's already in police custody, but there are communications I hadn't turned over yet, internal memos that show the full extent of his conspiracy. If he deletes those, then we lose pieces of the puzzle. Maybe not enough to tank the case, but enough to create doubt. Ryan looked back at Chen. Let us try. If Adrian sees Vanessa, sees me, maybe he'll actually talk instead of just making demands. Chen shook her head. It's too risky. Everything about this situation is risky. Vanessa stepped closer to the detective. Adrian knows we're the ones who brought him down. If anyone can get through to him, it's us. And if we can buy your tech team time to break through his security, my tech team says they need at least 2 hours, probably more. Then we buy them 2 hours. Vanessa's voice had the same steel Ryan had heard in the boardroom. This is my company, detective, my employees' data, my responsibility. Let me handle it. Chen looked between them, clearly weighing the risks against the potential benefits. Finally, she sighed. You get 15 minutes. You wear vests. You stay in the hallway outside the server room where we can see you on cameras, and if anything goes sideways, you get out immediately. Clear? Clear, Ryan and Vanessa said in unison. 10 minutes later, they were in the stairwell climbing toward the 34th floor, both wearing bulletproof vests that felt heavier than they looked. A SWAT team followed at a distance, weapons ready but not drawn. The building was eerily quiet. Everyone evacuated except for Adrian, and now them. You ever do anything like this before? Vanessa asked as they climbed. Break into a hostage situation with a desperate criminal? This is a first. Great, me too. They reached the 34th floor and paused at the door. Through the small window, Ryan could see the hallway leading to the server room. Emergency lights cast everything in a sickly yellow glow. You ready? He asked. No, but let's do it anyway. They pushed through the door. The hallway was empty except for a chair someone had left overturned near the elevator. The server room was at the far end, a reinforced door with a small window. Ryan could see Adrian inside, sitting at a terminal with his laptop, his silver hair disheveled and his expensive suit rumpled. They walked slowly, their footsteps echoing. Adrian didn't look up until they were right outside the door. Then he smiled, and it was the most unsettling thing Ryan had seen in a week full of unsettling things. Well, Adrian said through the door, his voice muffled but audible. The heroes arrive. How predictable. Adrian opened the door, Vanessa said. This doesn't have to end badly. It already ended badly, the moment you decided to destroy me. Adrian stood and walked to the door, close enough that Ryan could see the exhaustion and rage in his eyes. I built this company with you, Vanessa. I gave you 6 years of my life, and you threw it away because of some janitor with paranoid delusions. You tried to kill me, Vanessa said flatly. You stole from the company. You conspired with board members to force me out. Don't pretend this is about loyalty. It was always about what was best for Clark Industries. You were making reckless decisions, bleeding money on acquisitions that would never pay off. Someone had to be the adult. By poisoning my coffee? Adrian's smile faded. That was supposed to be clean, simple. You'd have collapsed during the board meeting, gone to the hospital, and died of a heart attack or aneurysm before anyone could run tests. No one would have suspected anything, except Ryan noticed. Adrian's gaze shifted to Ryan, and there was pure hatred there. Yes, the janitor. The man who couldn't let go of his dead wife long enough to see he was being manipulated. Ryan felt anger spike through him, but he kept his voice level. Sarah wasn't paranoid. She found evidence of fraud at Meridian Tech, and you had her killed for it. I did what was necessary to protect a business deal worth $50 million. Your wife was collateral damage. Adrian said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather. Just like you were supposed to be collateral damage when I realized you were helping Vanessa investigate me. You sent someone after me? I sent someone to scare you off. Make you understand that digging into things that don't concern you has consequences. Adrian turned back to his laptop. But you didn't scare easily. Neither of you did. So here we are. Here we are, Vanessa agreed. With you trapped in a server room, the police outside, and a warrant for your arrest. Even if you delete everything on these servers, you're still going to prison, Adrian. Maybe. Or maybe I erase enough evidence that reasonable doubt creeps in. Maybe my lawyers create enough confusion that a jury can't convict. His fingers moved over the keyboard. I've already wiped the communications archive. All those internal memos you mentioned? Gone. Next is the financial database. Then the security footage backups. The police already have copies of the important files. Do they? All of them? Every email, every transaction, every piece of communication that shows the full scope of what I built? Adrian's smile returned. I was very thorough, Vanessa. There are layers to this you never uncovered. Board members I influenced, deals I structured, money I moved. You think Chen and Huang were the only ones? You think Park was the extent of it? Vanessa's expression hardened. Who else? Open this door, and I'll tell you. Give me safe passage out of here, drop the charges, and I'll hand over everything. Names, documentation, proof of a conspiracy that goes far beyond what you've discovered. You're lying. Am I? Adrian pulled up something on his screen. Thomas Wright, your loyal board member. Did you know his son's law firm represents 3 of my shell companies? That Wright himself invested in several of them through blind trusts? He's been skimming for 2 years. Ryan saw Vanessa flinch. Wright had supported her in the board meeting, had seemed genuinely shocked by Adrian's betrayal. You're making this up to create chaos. Check the records before I delete them. You have maybe 5 minutes. Adrian turned the laptop so they could see the screen through the window. Files were disappearing in real time, folders vanishing from the directory. Or don't check. Let me erase it all and wonder for the rest of your life who else betrayed you. This is a bluff, Ryan said. You're trying to buy time. Time for what? There's no rescue coming. I know exactly how trapped I am. Adrian's voice dropped lower. But if I'm going down, I'm taking everything with me. The company, the evidence, everyone who thought they could use me and walk away clean. All of it burns. Vanessa looked at Ryan, a silent question in her eyes. He could see her calculating, weighing the risk of losing potential evidence against the certainty that Adrian was manipulating them. Don't do this, she said to Adrian. Whatever you think you're accomplishing, it's not worth it. That's where you're wrong. This is exactly worth it, because for 6 years I watched you build an empire on my work, my strategies, my sacrifices. I made you successful, Vanessa, and you repaid me with betrayal. His hand hovered over the keyboard. So now I take it back. All of it. Ryan's phone buzzed silently. A text from Detective Chen. Tech team broke through. They're copying data remotely. Keep him talking for 3 more minutes. 3 minutes. Ryan looked at Adrian through the glass, at the man who'd killed Sarah, who'd tried to kill Vanessa, who was now threatening to destroy everything in a final act of spite. You talk about betrayal, Ryan said, but you're the one who betrayed everyone. Your wife, your kids, your colleagues. You killed people, Adrian. You poisoned Vanessa's coffee yourself. I saw the footage. Adrian's hand paused. What footage? Security cameras in the conference room. You entering at 7:43 a.m., pouring oleander extract into the coffee carafe, leaving. It's all recorded. The police have it. For the first time, genuine fear crossed Adrian's face. That's not possible. I disabled that camera. You disabled the one facing the door. You missed the backup camera in the corner. Ryan stepped closer to the window. It's over, Adrian. Even if you delete every file on these servers, we have you on video committing attempted murder. There's no explaining that away. Adrian's composure cracked completely, his face flushed red, hands shaking as he backed away from the door. You're lying. This is another manipulation. I'm not lying, and I think you know that. Ryan kept his voice calm, steady. The only question now is whether you want to go to prison as someone who destroyed a company out of spite, or as someone who at least tried to do the right thing at the end. The right thing? Adrian laughed, bitter and broken. There is no right thing. There's only winning and losing, and I've already lost. Then stop making it worse, Vanessa said. Stop the deletion. Open the door. Face what you've done with whatever dignity you have left. For a long moment, Adrian just stood there, staring at his laptop screen as files continued to disappear. Ryan could see the internal struggle playing out on his face, rage warring with resignation, pride fighting against the reality of total defeat. Then, slowly, Adrian closed his laptop. Fine, he said quietly. Fine. You win. You both win. He walked to the door and started entering the code to unlock it. Ryan tensed, ready for this to be another trick, another desperate play. But the lock disengaged with a heavy click, and the door swung open. Adrian stepped into the hallway, his hands raised. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. The SWAT team emerged from the stairwell, weapons trained on him. Adrian Voss, you're under arrest, the team leader said. On your knees, hands behind your head. Adrian complied mechanically, his eyes fixed on Vanessa. I really did believe I was doing what was best for the company, he said, as officers moved forward with handcuffs. I know you won't believe that, but it's true. I don't care what you believed, Vanessa said. You tried to kill me. You killed Ryan's wife. You destroyed lives because you couldn't accept that the company was mine, not yours. The officers pulled Adrian to his feet, cuffed and defeated. As they led him toward the stairs, he looked back one last time. You'll never trust anyone again, he said to Vanessa. That's the real damage I've done. Every person you work with, every decision you make, you'll wonder if they're another me. That's your prison, Vanessa. You'll carry it forever. Then he was gone, led away by police who'd been waiting weeks to put him in handcuffs. Ryan's phone buzzed again. Detective Chen. We got everything. Full backup secured before he could finish the deletion. You two okay? Ryan showed the message to Vanessa. She nodded, but he could see the tremor in her hands, the weight of everything finally hitting her. Come on, he said gently. Let's get out of here. They walked back through the building in silence, past police officers and technicians, down stairs that seemed to stretch forever. Outside, the media descended immediately, shouting questions that neither of them answered. Detective Chen created a buffer, getting them to Vanessa's car before the crowd could close in. Vanessa sat in the driver's seat but didn't start the engine. She just stared through the windshield at the building she'd built, the company she'd nearly lost, the empire that had almost cost her life. He's right, you know, she said finally. About trust. I don't know how to come back from this. You do it the same way you built this company in the first place. One day at a time, one decision at a time. Ryan turned to look at her. And you do it with people who prove themselves through actions, not words. People who notice when something's wrong and do something about it. People like you. People like me. Like Patricia. Like the employees who stayed loyal even when Adrian was spreading lies. He paused. Trust isn't gone, Vanessa. It's just harder to earn. That's not a bad thing. She finally looked at him, and there was something raw and honest in her expression. That job offer. Director of Operations. Is it still open? Did you rescind it in the last hour? No. Then, yeah, it's still open. Vanessa started the car. Good, because I'm going to need someone I can trust to help rebuild everything Adrian tried to destroy. And I think you're the right person for that. I still have a 7-year-old daughter who needs me home for dinner. I know. We'll make it work. She pulled out of the parking space. Where can I drop you? Emma's school. I need to pick her up and explain why today got complicated. They drove through the city as the afternoon faded toward evening. Ryan called Mrs. Chen to let her know he'd get Emma himself, then sent a message to the after-school program. When they pulled up outside Riverside Elementary, kids were streaming out of the building, backpacks bouncing. Emma spotted him and ran over, then stopped when she saw Vanessa in the driver's seat. Hi again, Emma said, suddenly shy. Hi, Emma, Vanessa replied. Your dad's a hero. Did you know that? He says he's just doing his job. His job is being a hero. Trust me on that. Emma climbed into the back seat, studying Vanessa with open curiosity. Are you going to keep working with my dad? If he'll let me. We make a good team. He makes a good team with everyone. He's good at that. Emma buckled her seatbelt. Can we still get ice cream? You promised, Dad. Tomorrow, Ryan said. Tonight we're doing pizza and a movie. Deal? Deal. Vanessa drove them to Ryan's apartment, and when they arrived, she turned to him with an expression that was almost vulnerable. Thank you, she said, for everything. For saving my life, for helping me see the truth, for not letting me face this alone. You wouldn't have been alone regardless. You're stronger than you think. Maybe, but having someone I could count on made all the difference. She held out her hand. Partners? Ryan shook it. Partners. He and Emma got out, and Ryan watched Vanessa drive away until her taillights disappeared around the corner. Then he looked down at his daughter, who was watching him with those two wise eyes. Is the important work really done now? She asked. Yeah, kiddo, it's really done. Good. Because I missed you. Ryan pulled her into a hug, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo and the lingering smell of school cafeteria food. I missed you too. Come on, let's order that pizza. The trial happened 4 months later. Ryan testified for 3 days, walking the jury through everything he'd discovered, every piece of evidence, every connection that proved Adrian's guilt. Vanessa testified for 2 days, her voice steady as she described the poisoning attempt and the betrayal of someone she'd trusted completely. Vincent Moretti, offered immunity, testified that Adrian had approached him requesting a fast-acting poison that would mimic natural causes. He'd provided oleander extract and asked no questions because that's how his business worked. David Park testified about the embezzlement scheme, the shell companies, the millions of dollars Adrian had stolen. Marcus Chen and Jennifer Huang testified about the conspiracy to remove Vanessa from power, their voices small and ashamed as they admitted their roles. And the security footage of Adrian pouring poison into the coffee carafe played on screens throughout the courtroom, damning and undeniable. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous on all counts. Guilty of attempted murder, guilty of embezzlement, guilty of conspiracy. The judge sentenced Adrian to 25 years in prison without possibility of parole. Ryan watched from the gallery as Adrian was led away in handcuffs, his silver hair and expensive suit unable to hide the broken man underneath. Adrian didn't look at him, didn't look at Vanessa. He just stared straight ahead as if he could will himself into a different reality. Outside the courthouse, media surrounded them again. But this time Vanessa was ready. She gave a brief statement about justice being served, and Clark Industries moving forward stronger than ever. She thanked the police, the prosecutors, and the people who refused to look away when they saw something wrong. Ryan stood beside her, uncomfortable with the attention, but accepting that this was part of how things ended. Emma held his hand, wearing her favorite dress, because she'd insisted on coming to see the important day. Later, after the cameras left and the crowds dispersed, the three of them went for ice cream. Not to celebrate, the whole thing felt too heavy for celebration, but because Emma had been patient through everything and deserved something normal and sweet. They sat in the same booth at Sweet Treats, Emma with her cookie dough ice cream, Ryan with black coffee, Vanessa with vanilla that she ate slowly while Emma told them about the science fair project she'd won second place for. It was about crystals, Emma explained, her hands gesturing wildly. How they form and why some are prettier than others. I used my rock collection as examples. That sounds amazing, Vanessa said, and she sounded like she actually meant it. It was. Dad helped me with the display board. He's good at making things look professional. He's good at a lot of things. Emma beamed at that, proud of her father in the unselfconscious way kids were proud of their parents. Ryan felt something loosen in his chest, tension he'd been carrying for months finally releasing. They walked out into the evening, the city settling into its nighttime rhythm. Vanessa walked them to Ryan's car, a new one he'd bought with his first paycheck as director of operations. Not fancy, but reliable, with room for Emma's car seat and the rock collection she insisted on bringing everywhere. I'll see you Monday? Vanessa asked. Monday, Ryan confirmed. We have that meeting with the Singapore team about the acquisition. Right, the acquisition Adrian said would never work. Guess we'll prove him wrong about that too. Vanessa smiled, and it reached her eyes in a way it hadn't 4 months ago. She'd changed since the trial, still sharp, still driven, but with something warmer underneath, like she'd remembered that being human wasn't a weakness. Good night, Emma, she said. Good night, Emma replied. Thanks for the ice cream. Thank you for sharing your dad with me. I know it's not always easy. Emma considered this seriously. It's okay. He says you're doing important work together, helping people. We are. And your dad's the best person I know for that kind of work. They drove home through streets Ryan knew by heart now, this city that had been a place to hide becoming something more like home. Emma fell asleep in the back seat, her head tilted against the window, clutching her stuffed rabbit. At the apartment, Ryan carried her inside and tucked her into bed without waking her. He stood in her doorway for a moment, watching her sleep, thinking about all the promises he'd made and broken and kept over the past months. The promise to keep her safe. Kept. The promise that things would go back to normal. Broken, but maybe that wasn't a bad thing. The promise to himself that he'd find out who killed Sarah. Kept. In his own room, Ryan pulled out the box he kept in his closet. Photos of Sarah, her favorite book, the necklace he'd given her on their last anniversary. He looked at her picture, her smile bright and real. "I got him," Ryan said quietly. "He's going to prison for what he did to you. It doesn't bring you back, but at least he won't hurt anyone else." The photo didn't answer, but Ryan felt something settle in his chest anyway. Not closure exactly. Sarah would always be gone, that wound would always exist, but something like peace. The knowledge that he'd done everything he could, that justice had happened even if it came too late for her. He put the box away and checked his phone. A text from Vanessa. "Thank you again for everything. I know I keep saying it, but I mean it every time." Ryan typed back, "Stop thanking me and get some sleep. Big day Monday." "Yes, boss." He smiled at that, at the easy familiarity they'd developed. It wasn't friendship exactly. The power dynamic made that complicated. But it was partnership, trust, the thing Adrian had tried to destroy and had somehow helped them build instead. The months that followed established a new rhythm. Ryan worked at Clark Industries, helping Vanessa rebuild the executive team with people who'd been thoroughly vetted and came with no connections to Adrian's conspiracy. He restructured operational procedures, implemented new oversight systems, created redundancies that would make future fraud much harder to hide. The work was challenging but satisfying in a way his old engineering job had never been. He was using his brain again, solving real problems, making a difference beyond just paying bills and keeping Emma fed. And Emma thrived. With Ryan's new salary, they moved to a 2-bedroom apartment in a better neighborhood with good schools and a park 2 blocks away. Emma got her own room, which she immediately filled with her rock collection, her art projects, and a bookshelf Ryan built himself from a kit. She made friends easily, joined the science club at school, talked endlessly about becoming a geologist when she grew up. Sometimes Ryan caught her talking to Sarah's picture on her nightstand, telling her mom about her day, and his heart would ache with the unfairness of it all. But mostly, Emma was happy, and that was what mattered. Vanessa became a regular presence in their lives, though not in any way Ryan had expected. She'd show up for Emma's school events, the science fair, the winter concert, the end-of-year awards ceremony, sitting in the audience beside him like she belonged there. "You don't have to do this," Ryan told her after Emma received an award for academic excellence. "I know you're busy." "I want to be here," Vanessa said. "Emma reminds me that there's more to life than quarterly earnings and board meetings. That's important." They'd grab dinner sometimes after work, the 3 of them, casual places where Emma could be herself and they could talk about anything except business. Vanessa was surprisingly good with kids, patient with Emma's endless questions, and genuinely interested in her rock collection theories. "You should have kids of your own," Ryan said once, watching Vanessa help Emma identify a piece of quartz. "Maybe someday." Vanessa didn't look up from the rock. "Right now I'm still figuring out how to trust people again. Kids require a lot of trust." "They do, but they're worth it." "I believe you." 8 months after Adrian's conviction, Clark Industries announced record profits. The Singapore acquisition Adrian had opposed turned out to be brilliant, opening new markets and revenue streams. The company's reputation, which had taken a hit during the scandal, recovered as Vanessa implemented transparency measures and corporate governance reforms that became industry standards. The business press called it a remarkable turnaround. Vanessa called it proof that doing the right thing could also be good business. Ryan was in his office reviewing operational reports when Vanessa knocked on his open door. She was wearing one of her expensive suits, but her hair was down and she looked relaxed in a way she rarely did during work hours. "You have a minute?" she asked. "For you?" "Always." She came in and closed the door, which immediately made Ryan curious. Vanessa only closed doors for serious conversations. "I want to show you something," she said, pulling up something on her phone. "The board approved it this morning." She handed him the phone. On the screen was an announcement for the Sarah Hayes Memorial Scholarship, providing full funding for engineering students from underprivileged backgrounds who wanted to study quality control and safety systems. Ryan stared at it, his throat tight. "Vanessa, I know we can't bring her back, but we can make sure her work, her commitment to safety and integrity, continues through other people." Vanessa's voice was gentle. "If that's okay with you, I wanted your permission before making it public." "It's more than okay. It's—" Ryan couldn't find the words. "Thank you. This would have meant everything to her. She deserves to be remembered for more than how she died. This felt like the right way to do that." They announced the scholarship the following week. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of applications from students who wanted to honor Sarah's legacy by pursuing the same work she'd believed in. The first recipient was a young woman from Sarah's hometown who'd grown up wanting to make sure the products people used every day were safe. Emma cried when Ryan told her about the scholarship, happy tears that soaked into his shirt as he held her. "Mommy would be so proud," she said. "Yeah, sweetheart, she would be." A year after Adrian's conviction, Ryan and Emma visited Sarah's grave on what would have been her birthday. They brought flowers, sunflowers, her favorite, and Emma carefully placed them on the headstone. "Hi, Mommy," Emma said, kneeling in the grass. "I'm 8 now. I got all A's this semester, and Dad's new job is really good. He's happy now, not all the time, but more than before." Ryan knelt beside her, his hand on her shoulder. "We miss you," he said to the headstone, to the memory of the woman he'd loved. "But we're okay. The man who hurt you is in prison, and we're building something good from all of it. I think you'd approve." They sat there for a while, the afternoon sun warm on their backs, before heading back to the car. On the drive home, Emma was quiet, processing in the way kids did. "Dad," she said finally, "do you think Mommy knows about everything that happened? About you helping Ms. Clark and catching the bad guy?" "I'd like to think so. I think she's proud of you. I think she's happy you didn't let the bad guy win." Ryan's vision blurred slightly, but he blinked it clear. "I hope you're right, kiddo." "I'm always right. You said so." "I said you're right a lot. There's a difference." Emma giggled, and the sound filled the car like music. That evening, Vanessa came over for dinner. It had become a weekly tradition. Sunday nights, casual, just the three of them eating whatever Ryan cooked and talking about nothing important. Tonight was spaghetti, which Ryan had finally mastered after months of Emma's patient feedback. They ate at the small kitchen table, Emma monopolizing the conversation with stories about her friend Sarah's birthday party and the new rock she'd found that might be a geode, but probably wasn't. After dinner, Emma retreated to her room to work on homework, while Ryan and Vanessa cleaned up. They'd developed an efficient system. Ryan washed, Vanessa dried, both of them moving around the small kitchen in comfortable synchronization. "I got an interesting call today," Vanessa said, putting away plates. "From a reporter writing a book about corporate fraud and the Adrian Voss case." "You going to cooperate?" "Probably not. The whole thing's been dissected enough already." She paused. "But it made me think about how different my life is now compared to a year ago." "Better or worse?" "Different, harder in some ways. I question every decision more than I used to, second-guess people's motives, but better in others." She glanced at him. "I have people I can actually trust now. That's new?" "Trust isn't overrated." "No, it's not." They finished the dishes in comfortable silence. When Emma came out to say goodnight, Vanessa hugged her warmly and promised to come to her upcoming science presentation about sedimentary rock formation. Ryan walked Vanessa to the door. Outside, the city hummed with its evening sounds, traffic, voices, life happening all around them. "You don't have to keep coming over every week," Ryan said. "I know you're busy." "I know I don't have to. I want to." Vanessa met his eyes. "You and Emma, you're my reminder that there's more to life than Clark Industries. That's valuable." "We're a package deal, you know. Can't have one without the other." "I wouldn't want it any other way." She left, and Ryan watched her go before heading back inside. Emma was in bed, her nightlight casting soft shadows on the walls, her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. "Is Ms. Clark your friend now?" Emma asked sleepily. "Yeah, I think she is." "Good. She's nice. And she makes you smile more." "A lot of things make me smile more these days." "Like what?" "Like you. Like this life we've built. Like knowing we made it through the hard part and came out okay on the other side." Emma yawned. "I'm glad we're okay." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." He kissed her forehead and turned out the light, leaving the door cracked the way she liked it. In his own room, Ryan sat on the edge of his bed and looked at the photo of Sarah he kept on his nightstand. They'd made it. Not unscathed, not without scars, but they'd made it. Adrian was in prison, Sarah's legacy lived on through the scholarship, and Emma was thriving in ways Ryan had feared might never be possible after losing her mother. And somewhere in the process of seeking justice for Vanessa, Ryan had found something he hadn't expected, A future that felt like more than just survival. A job that mattered, friendships that ran deeper than convenience, a life that honored Sarah's memory while still moving forward. It wasn't perfect. Emma still had nightmares sometimes about her mother. Ryan still caught himself looking over his shoulder, checking for threats that no longer existed. Vanessa still struggled with trusting her employees completely, but perfection wasn't the goal. Living fully, honestly, with integrity and purpose, that was the goal. And they were doing that, all three of them, one imperfect day at a time. 2 years after Adrian's conviction, Clark Industries launched a new initiative, a corporate ethics program that partnered with universities to train the next generation of business leaders in responsible leadership and transparent operations. Vanessa asked Ryan to help design it, and together they created something that balanced profitability with accountability. The program's first guest speaker was Ryan himself, telling his story to a room full of MBA students about why paying attention to details mattered, why speaking up when something seemed wrong could save lives, why integrity couldn't be compromised even when the stakes were high. Emma sat in the back row, 10 years old now, and mature beyond her years, watching her father with undisguised pride. Beside her sat Vanessa, who'd taken the afternoon off to attend. After the presentation, students surrounded Ryan with questions. How had he known something was wrong? What gave him the courage to speak up? What advice did he have for people entering the corporate world? Pay attention, Ryan told them, to the details others miss, to the patterns that don't quite fit, to your instincts when they tell you something's off. And when you see something wrong, don't assume someone else will handle it. Be the person who handles it. Even if it puts you at risk, one student asked. Especially if it puts you at risk, because that's when it matters most. Emma beamed at that, and when Ryan caught her eye across the room, she gave him a thumbs up. Vanessa smiled beside her, and Ryan felt the weight of the past years settle into something like contentment. They'd started with a poisoned cup of coffee and a janitor's warning. They'd ended with justice served, lives rebuilt, and a legacy that would outlast all of them. It was messy and complicated and imperfect, like everything real always was. But it was also true, hard-won, and absolutely worth it. And as Ryan drove home that evening with Emma chattering about her friend's upcoming birthday party and Vanessa texting him ideas for the next ethics program module, he realized something important. They hadn't just survived what Adrian tried to do to them. They'd built something better from the wreckage. A life with purpose, relationships with depth, a future that honored the past without being imprisoned by it. Sarah would have approved. More than that, she would have been proud. And for Ryan, for Emma, for Vanessa, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.